Chapter 1248. The essence of a soul ring is nothing more than a manifestation of energy. The creation of a soul skill is nothing more than a product born from the fusion of a martial soul with a soul beast energy. What's more important about this? It's the martial soul, our own martial soul. The martial soul has infinite mysteries, and what we've unearthed so far is only the tip of the iceberg. Lu Yuan's lips curled up slightly as he spoke softly. What do you mean? Chihiro Snow's willowy eyebrows trembled slightly as a hint of curiosity appeared on her beautiful cheeks. What I mean is that instead of seeking external objects, it's better to seek one's own strength. A person's potential is limitless, and it mainly depends on one's own ability to unearth it. The mysteries of the martial soul are also limitless, and it mainly depends on how far you can unleash it. Why do we have to hunt soul beasts to obtain soul rings? Wouldn't it be better for humans to produce their own soul rings? Lu Yuan smiled mysteriously as an indescribable color flashed through his eyes. Self-produced soul rings? How is that possible? As soon as Lu Yuan said this, Chihiro Snow and Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but exclaim at the same time. Their red lips opened slightly as they looked at Lu Yuan in shock. Why is it impossible? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. 100,000-year soul beast can have 6 soul rings before it's born. That's because they've cultivated before and had cultivation. After they transformed into humans, their cultivation and skills turned into soul rings and soul skills. How can a human do it? Chihiro Snow replied. Okay, then tell me, how do soul beasts obtain their soul skills? Lu Yuan asked. Of course, it's the innate talent of their race. The soul skills evolve from their bloodline inheritance. Chihiro Snow answered without hesitation. Very good. Since soul beasts have their innate talent and can evolve soul skills, then why can't our martial soul, which is passed down from generation to generation, evolve soul skills? Isn't the martial soul the greatest innate talent of humans? If soul beasts can do it, why can't we humans do it? Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow with a burning gaze. Chihiro Snow was at a loss for words. Yes, soul beasts can rely on their innate talents to evolve soul skills that are suitable for themselves. Why can't our human martial souls do the same? Let me ask you again. Why is it that God-bestowed soul rings can be forged into a suitable soul ring, and there's no need to hunt soul beasts? Why? Chihiro Snow shook his head and asked in confusion. They all knew that a God-bestowed soul ring could allow one to obtain a soul ring that was most suitable for oneself. But as for the reason, she didn't know. We'll have to talk about the essence of the God-given soul ring. The God-given soul ring is formed by the divine power of the gods. The gods control the power of heaven and earth. Their divine power naturally contains the pure original power of heaven and earth. Humans live in heaven and earth. They depend on heaven and earth and exist together. They are naturally compatible with the original power of heaven and earth. Therefore, everyone can obtain a suitable soul ring from the God-given soul ring. It's the same for hunting soul beasts to obtain soul rings. Soul beasts absorb the spirit energy of heaven and earth and the essence of the sun and moon to cultivate. Naturally, their bodies also contain the original power of heaven and earth. It's just that this original power isn't directly provided by heaven and earth like that of the gods. It's pure and without impurities. This original power is refined by the soul beasts a second time. Because there are many types of soul beasts and their bloodlines are diverse, the original power they contain is rather complicated. Furthermore, human martial souls have different attributes. Therefore, when human soul masters hunt soul beasts, they will choose those soul beasts that are relatively compatible with their martial souls. This is also the reason why the martial soul and soul ring energy clash and can't be absorbed. But the most essential point is that the martial soul absorbs the original power of heaven and earth to condense soul rings. In other words, the martial soul needs to gather the energy of heaven and earth to condense soul rings. Soul beasts are just a carrier of the original power of heaven and earth. Lu Yuan gently caressed Chihiro Snow's cheeks and smiled faintly. Chihiro Snow's delicate body trembled, and her beautiful eyes flickered. She had to admit that Lu Yuan's words had indeed shocked her. But after thinking carefully, it was very reasonable. Soul rings, in the end, were just the embodiment of the energy of heaven and earth. And when the martial soul intersected with this energy of heaven and earth, it would unlock its own innate skills, which were the so-called soul skills. It was just like how Soul Beast broke through from 10 years to 100 years and absorbed more energy of heaven and earth. Under the natural baptism, their own inherited skills were born. Perhaps from the beginning, the cultivation path of humans was the same as that of soul beasts. They absorbed the original power of heaven and earth and accumulated energy. When they broke through a bottleneck, they would naturally condense soul rings and enter the next stage. It was the God realm that single-handedly changed the rules and forcefully linked humans and soul beasts. Under the change in the cultivation rules, humans could no longer actively absorb the original power of heaven and earth to condense soul rings. They could only rely on killing soul beasts to obtain soul rings. Over time, it formed the current deformed system. In the end, Chihiro Snow was an exceptionally intelligent person. After a little deduction, he came up with his own guess. Lu Yuan expressed high praise for Chihiro Snow's guess, because it was exactly the same as what he had thought. Poking Chihiro Snow's jade-like nose, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "Humans do indeed have the ability to produce soul rings. This ability originates from the martial soul, and is one of the unique mysteries of the martial soul. However, there is an invisible shackle on the continent that restricts this ability. This is why human soul masters have to kill soul beasts to obtain soul rings. What I want to do is to remove this shackle and let human soul masters regain this ability. Furthermore, I will also change the rules so that soul rings and soul bones will not appear after a soul beast is killed. This way, the biggest barrier between humans and soul beasts will be broken, and harmonious coexistence will no longer be a dream." Lu Yuan said with a smile. Chihiro Snow nodded. If it was really as Lu Yuan had planned, then the huge conflict between humans and soul masters could indeed be eliminated. "Have you considered the ranks of soul rings?" Chihiro Snow asked another question. Soul rings were divided into white, yellow, purple, black, red, gold, and other ranks. Geniuses would always have better combinations. Now that this change was made, this was also a problem that had to be solved. This is even simpler. It depends on talent and luck. The ranks of soul rings are, in essence, nothing more than the amount of origin energy of heaven and earth. The higher the talent, the better the martial soul. Naturally, they will be able to gather more origin energy of heaven and earth and condense better soul rings to advance to the next stage. There are also various kinds of unique treasures that contain high-grade and special origin energy of heaven and earth. Those who are lucky enough to obtain them will naturally be able to condense higher-quality soul rings. There is also the power of the stars, the power of the sun, and other high-grade powers. If there are talented people who can communicate with them through their martial soul, they will naturally be able to obtain better soul rings. It can be said that after removing the cultivation method of killing soul beasts to obtain soul rings, the soul rings obtained by soul masters will be more diverse, and the ranks will naturally exist. Chapter 1249. I don't even need to think about this, because soul masters in heaven and earth can give me the best answer. The difference between good and bad is an eternal truth, and it will always exist naturally. Lu Yuan smiled as he rubbed Chihiro Snow's head. Qianrenshua nodded gently. At this point, she had completely understood what Lu Yuan meant. There was indeed no problem with this new cultivation method. Furthermore, it could allow soul masters to explore the profundities of their martial souls on a deeper level. Furthermore, the power of heaven and earth was boundless, and they didn't have to worry about their cultivation being cut off like before. This was the best cultivation method for soul masters on the Douluo continent. Do you have any more questions? Lu Yuan smiled as he looked into Chihiro Snow's watery eyes. No more questions. Chihiro Snow shook her head and replied. Lu Yuan smiled when he heard this. He kissed Chihiro Snow's red lips, then kissed Zhu Zhuqing and hugged them tightly. Great Stardew Forest, Lake of Life. Ever since many dragons had been revived, the Lake of Life had become a paradise for the dragons. These dragons were very strong, and they were very domineering. Apart from the dragons above the god rank, the rest of the soul beasts had been chased out of the Lake of Life. The Bear Lord by G, ZG, and even Dtion had been chased out of the core area of the Lake of Life. Right now, they were like the Titan giant ape and the sky azure bull python, and they were reduced to guarding the entrance. In the world of soul beasts, strength was everything, and the hierarchy was very strict. Even though they were considered top tier on the Douluo continent, they were still far from being able to compare to the god-rank dragons. These dragons had actually chased the natives of the Lake of Life out of the Lake of Life. This was what it meant to take over a magpie's nest. Dtion and the other soul beasts were gathered at the periphery of the Lake of Life. The Scarlet King, the Bear Lord, the Myriad Demon King, Wang Qiu, Little Blue, Little Wu, and the rest were with them. It was obvious that they had been chased out as well. Dtion had transformed into a middle-aged man. He was dressed in black, and there was a strand of gold in his long black hair. His square face was filled with an indescribable sense of intimidation and dominance. However, at this moment, his dark golden eyes were gently blinking, and there was a deep sense of worry in his eyes. He clasped his hands behind his back and looked at the forest in the distance, quietly in a daze. He was considered a rare, intelligent soul beast who could see the big picture. The soul beasts had been rather peaceful under his leadership, and they were thriving. But now, his position as their former leader had been completely replaced. He could only watch helplessly as the soul beasts went further and further astray. He was extremely worried. The dragon tribe's methods were too forceful and overbearing. He was afraid that there wouldn't be any good outcome. In the end, there was a supreme being in this world. He made all the rules and controlled everyone's life and death. Although the dragon clan was extremely powerful now, if they angered him, they would be completely reduced to nothingness in an instant. If that person knew what was happening here, a huge purge would descend upon the dragon tribe. When that happened, things would be really troublesome. However, there was nothing he could do. After all, the words of a lowly person did not carry much weight. These dragons were his seniors, and their strength was way above his. Even if he wanted to stop them, there was nothing he could do. All he could do was to fret here, feeling extremely helpless in his heart. Dtion couldn't help but sigh as he thought until here. Dtion, a sweet-sounding and gentle voice rang out. A beautiful lady in a jade-green dress came beside Dtion. Are you still worried? How can I not be worried? If the Supreme One knows what's happening here, he will definitely be furious. Dtion glanced at Bai Ji and sighed softly. The dragon tribe had chased Wang Qiu and Lan'er out of the core region of the Lake of Life. Their actions would definitely infuriate Lu Yuan. The two of them weren't just anyone. They were Lu Yuan's younger sisters, who knew what Lu Yuan would do in a fit of rage if he dared to chase them out. He was very clear about how terrifying Lu Yuan was. He was a supreme being who could crush a god of creation with a single finger. Offending him could result in a fate 100 times worse than death. These dragon tribe members are indeed brainless. They actually did something so stupid. Although they are related to the Supreme One, this isn't a reason for them to seek death. If the Supreme One is really angry, the Supreme One won't be able to stop him. Bai Ji furrowed her brows and sighed softly. That's right. Although I also want the Soul Beast tribe to develop and become stronger and even dominate the Douluo continent and the God Realm, we can't use such a method. This is the stupidest method. Once the Supreme One is angry, everything will be over. Furthermore, they actually dared to chase away the Supreme One's younger sisters. I can almost see their downfall. Dtion shook his head and sighed. What about the Mountain Dragon King and the others? Why didn't they stop these dragon tribe members? Bai Ji couldn't help but ask. They're no longer here. Although they have been revived, they are still the Supreme One spirits. They have returned to the martial spirit palace a long time ago. Otherwise, none of this would have happened. Dition said plainly. The Mountain Dragon King and the others were still Lu Yuan spirits. The closer they were to Lu Yuan, the more beneficial it would be to their cultivation. Therefore, they returned to the martial spirit palace after settling these dragon tribe members down. They didn't expect these dragon tribe members to cause trouble after they left. These dragon tribe members thought that Lu Yuan was Gu Yuna's husband, and that Gu Yuna would allow them to cause trouble as long as Gu Yuna was around. Therefore, they didn't know that this was their biggest mistake. Lu Yuan's actions were decisive, and he had a bottom line. Once this line was crossed, he wouldn't let them off so easily. I've thought of contacting the Mountain Dragon King and the others and asking them to come back and deal with the Dragon Tribe. However, they're simply too close to the Supreme One. I'm worried that the Supreme One will find out about this in advance. If that happens, the Supreme One will be furious, and the reckoning will be brought forward. That's why I've been hesitating. However, there's no point in hesitating now. So many Soul Masters have died in the Great Stardow Forest. I'm afraid the Supreme One already knows that something is wrong here. Dition smiled bitterly. You're right. I already know. Just as Dition finished speaking, an indifferent voice rang out in Dition's ears, causing his expression to change drastically. His body abruptly froze. Lu Yuan's figure slowly stepped out from the spatial crack. There was a cold look in his eyes, and there was an indifferent expression on his handsome face. It was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. However, the terrifying pressure of the storm caused Dition's heart to turn cold as a faint chill rose in his heart. Chapter 1250. Greetings, my lord. Dition's heart skipped a beat. After that, he hurriedly knelt down and greeted Lu Yuan. Greetings, my lord. Bai Ji also knelt down and lowered her head. She had a respectful look on her face. Dition and Bai Ji's actions and voices immediately attracted the attention of the Bear Lord, the Scarlet King, and the other soul beasts. When they discovered Lu Yuan's presence, they immediately knelt down and prostrated themselves on the ground. Right now, Lu Yuan had an extremely high prestige. He had single-handedly overthrown the God Realm and ascended to the position of Heavenly Emperor. These soul beasts who had seen him before were all full of recognition and reverence for him. Even though they wanted the soul beasts to rise to prominence and even take over the dominant position, their submission to Lu Yuan came from the bottom of their hearts. As long as Lu Yuan was in charge, they wouldn't dare to do anything. Their target was still Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna's child. Just as Lu Yuan had thought, their true goal was to push Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna's child to the top. They didn't dare to openly rebel in front of Lu Yuan. They were different from the dragons. They understood Lu Yuan better. That was why they were more respectful and fearful of Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed. He swept his gaze across Dition and the other soul beasts. There was a layer of frost on his face, and he wasn't in a good mood. This was especially so when he learned that the dragons had chased Wang Qiu and Xiao Lan out of the core of the Lake of Life. He was infuriated. These dragons really needed to be taught a lesson. They even dared to bully his sister. They didn't know what was good for them. Originally, he wanted to chase these dragons to the godly realm. However, it seemed like this matter couldn't be settled so easily. Didn't they want the dragons to rise up and take over the entire godly realm? Then he would completely eliminate their desires and take drastic measures to crush all their ambitions. He would let them know the consequences of angering him. He didn't want to do this in the first place, but the foolish actions of these dragons had truly infuriated him. Gu Yuna was supposed to be the supreme ruler of the soul beast race, but in this current situation, Gu Yuna's existence seemed to have become a source of pride for these dragons. As such, he could only take matters into his own hands and seize control of the soul beast race. Lu Yuan's eyes were cold. Dition, Bai Ji, and the other soul beasts were kneeling on the ground and trembling. Lu Yuan's invisible chilliness made them feel terrified. The pressure was too great. Lu Yuan glanced coldly at Dition and the other soul beasts. His gaze stopped at the front left, and his cold expression thawed as he revealed a warm smile. Two figures stood silently in his line of sight. At this moment, they were staring at him in a daze, their eyes filled with joy. Xiao Xiaolan. Lu Yuan smiled and called out to them softly. Step by step, he walked to the ground and looked at them lovingly. Brother, Wang Xiao, and Xiaolan's eyes brightened at the same time. They quickly ran forward. Wang Xiao and Xiaolan rushed into his arms as their fragrances wafted over. Lu Yuan raised his hands and gently hugged the two of them. Brother, Xiao missed you so much. Wang Xiao snuggled into Lu Yuan's arms and enjoyed the familiar warmth. After this, she lifted her head slightly and stared at Lu Yuan with her pinkish blue eyes. Her gaze was filled with longing. Brother missed Xiao too. Lu Yuan reached out with his right hand and gently caressed Wang Xiao's delicate face. He revealed a warm smile on his face. He was a Siscon, and everyone knew that. Wang Xiao was his first sister, and his feelings for her were very deep. After not seeing her for a long time, he indeed missed her. Xiaolan missed Big Brother too. Did Big Brother miss Xiaolan? Xiaolan blinked her big blue eyes and looked at Lu Yuan with a cute face as she asked. Of course I did. Xiaolan is so cute and obedient. Why wouldn't I miss you? Lu Yuan said with a smile as he tapped Xiaolan's delicate and cute nose. Lu Yuan liked this pure and kind little deep-sea demon whale very much. Naturally, he missed her. After receiving Lu Yuan's affirmation, Xiaolan giggled. Her face was filled with joy and happiness. Seeing how happy Xiaolan was, Lu Yuan couldn't help but pinch her cheeks. His expression was gentle, and there was a smile in his eyes. After caressing Wang Xiao and Xiaolan's soft hair, Lu Yuan's smile slowly faded. He looked at the two of them and asked softly, I heard that the dragons chased the two of you out? How was it? They didn't do anything to the two of you, right? Were the two of you hurt? After hearing this, Wang Xiao and Xiaolan's smiles froze. They looked at each other and shook their heads. We weren't hurt, and they didn't do anything to us. They only chased us out. Wang Xiao said softly, Is that true? Lu Yuan stared at Wang Xiao with a serious look in his eyes and said, Sure, don't make things difficult for yourself. Don't lie so that they can escape punishment. I know you're kind, but I want to know the truth. They really didn't do anything to the two of you? They really didn't. Wang Xiao shook her head again and said, Xiaolan, is what Xiao said true? Lu Yuan looked at Xiaolan. It's true. They didn't do anything to us. However, their attitude was terrible. They even unleashed their auras on us. We couldn't breathe from the pressure and were almost prostrating on the ground. Xiaolan pouted and spoke with some dissatisfaction. No one helped her when she was bullied, but now that Lu Yuan was here, she finally found someone to rely on. She vented all the anger that she had been holding in for a long time. Xiaolan was different from Wang Xiao. Wang Xiao was the great Star Doe Forest's auspicious beast, and she also had the bloodline of a dragon. She had a close relationship with the dragons, so she didn't want to see them punished. This was because she knew Lu Yuan's temper. Once Lu Yuan found out that they had been suppressed to the point of prostrating on the ground, he would definitely explode, and the dragons would end up in a terrible state. Even though she acted like a spoiled little girl in front of Lu Yuan, she was already very mature. She was only sticking to Lu Yuan because she liked the feeling of interacting with Lu Yuan. However, Xiaolan was a little more innocent than Wang Xiao. Furthermore, she had nothing to do with these dragons. Now that she saw her brother, whom she was so attached to and dependent on, she naturally had to reveal all her grievances. After all, she couldn't be bullied for no reason, right? Chapter 12:51. Lu Yuan's expression turned cold when he heard Xiaolan's words, and a chilly intent surged from his eyes. These bastards are so bold. Lu Yuan let out a low growl as his aura burst forth. That terrifying aura shot up to the sky and quickly spread out. The entire continent started to shake, and the Douluo continent's consciousness started to tremble. Waves of fear could be felt from it. Countless humans on the continent were terrified, as if something terrifying was pressing down on them. They all knelt on the ground and found it difficult to breathe. It was almost as if they couldn't catch their breath. The soul beasts in the great Douluo forest were the same. A heavenly aura pressed down on their bodies. Apart from Wang Xiao and Xiaolan, who were in front of Lu Yuan, all the soul beasts in the great Douluo forest prostrated themselves on the ground, regardless of their cultivations. There was no difference between God rank and God rank under Lu Yuan's aura. No soul beast dared to resist this aura, and the entire great Douluo forest knelt down. All the soul beasts in the great Douluo forest let out sorrowful cries, and their pleas for mercy could be heard. The heavenly emperor was enraged, and all living things had to bow their heads. Just a burst of his aura was enough to make all living things on the Douluo continent, and even heaven and earth itself, submit to him. Bibidon and Chihiro Snow looked at the large group of people kneeling in front of them in the martial soul palace, and their expressions changed slightly. If there was anyone who wasn't affected by this aura, it would be them who were very close to Lu Yuan and who had been tainted by Lu Yuan's aura. This was because Lu Yuan's aura had avoided them. Bibidon held her golden scepter, which was embedded with beautiful gems. Her pink eyes blinked, and she couldn't help but cast a questioning look at Chihiro Snow. "Stop looking. It's Obuchi." Chihiro Snow nodded and said softly. Obuchi seems to be really angry. Bibidon's delicate and slender eyebrows raised slightly, and her red lips parted slightly as she spoke in an indifferent voice. "It seems that the dragon tribe is really courting death." Chihiro Snow sneered and said with disdain. She knew that Lu Yuan had gone to the great Douluo forest. Judging from the current situation, these dragons seemed to have done something brainless that had truly infuriated Lu Yuan. In the end, soul beasts were still soul beasts. Even though there were intelligent beings like Guyuna, most of them were still brainless idiots. She didn't like soul beasts. She had never liked them. The enmity between the martial soul palace and soul beasts was something that couldn't be explained in a short period of time. If not for the fact that Lu Yuan had strongly advocated for the peaceful coexistence between humans and soul beasts, as well as the fact that he was worried about Guyuna, she would have already gone to the great Douluo forest to punish the dragons. But now, perhaps there was no need for her to do anything. If Lu Yuan got angry, the consequences would definitely be quite terrifying. Dragon race? A bunch of short-sighted fellows. They don't even have basic brains. Bibidon shook her head. The dragon tribe's innate bloodline was indeed very powerful, and they had a huge advantage over humans of the same rank. However, in terms of brains and intelligence, humans could pin the dragon tribe to the ground and beat them to a pulp. Humans were the wisest of all things. This wasn't unreasonable. I plan to go to the great Douluo forest to take a look. What about you? Bibidon looked at Chihiro Snow and asked, "Let's go together. It's rare to see Obuchi get angry. I have to go and observe." Chihiro Snow's lips curled slightly as he laughed softly. "If Obuchi hears what you're saying, he'll definitely spank you." Bibidon shook his head, a little amused. After that, his figure flashed as he tore open a spatial crack and walked in. Chihiro Snow followed closely behind. They tore open a spatial crack and followed behind Bibidon. Just as Bibidon and Chihiro Snow's figures disappeared, waves of spatial undulations came from the martial soul palace. A few graceful figures stepped into the spatial crack. At the same time, Lu Yuan's aura became heavier and heavier over at the great Douluo forest. The terrifying pressure caused the soul beasts in the forest to lose the strength to even make sound. The entire great Douluo forest became completely silent. Wang Xiao and Xiaolan were in a daze as they watched this scene. Their expressions changed slightly. Right now, Lu Yuan gave them a feeling of superiority and majesty. They couldn't help but feel a sense of respect and submission towards him. "Elder brother," Xiaolan called out softly. Her crisp and pleasant voice trembled a little. Even though Lu Yuan's aura avoided her, and Wang Qiu Lu Yuan's aura still made her feel a little afraid. Wang Xiao was the same. There was a look of respect on her delicate face. Lu Yuan's aura was too intimidating. After hearing Xiaolan's call, Lu Yuan lowered his head slightly. When he saw Xiaolan and Wang Qiu's fearful faces, he immediately reacted. The coldness in his eyes gradually disappeared, and a warm smile appeared on his face. The familiar smile warmed the hearts of the two girls and dispelled the fear in their hearts. Lu Yuan smiled and pinched Xiaolan's cheeks gently. He said gently, "Elder brother will teach them a lesson. I'll help you vent your anger. Okay? Okay. Xiaolan broke into a smile. Her pretty face was full of smiles. Elder brother was going to stand up for her. This couldn't be better. However, while Xiaolan was happy, Wang Qiu was a little worried. She grabbed Lu Yuan's hand and stared at Lu Yuan with her big pinkish blue eyes. There was a pleading in her voice. "Elder brother, just teach them a lesson. Don't kill them, okay? No matter what, they are related to us by blood." Wang Qiu said sincerely. "Don't worry, elder brother won't kill them. I'll be merciful on account of you and elder sister Na." Lu Yuan laughed softly. Indeed, he wouldn't go on a killing spree, but he would definitely make an example out of them. "Thank you, elder brother." Wang Qiu pecked Lu Yuan's face and thanked him softly. "You're such a kind girl." Lu Yuan rubbed Wang Qiu's head and smiled. He grabbed both of their waists and disappeared from where he was. In the next second, he appeared directly above the core region of the Lake of Life. Lu Yuan snorted as he looked at the many dragons crouching in the Lake of Life and on the shore. The five-clawed Golden Dragon King's bloodline surged quickly, and a dragon roar that shook the heavens rang out. A terrifying bloodline suppression instantly spread. It was different from the supreme suppression from before. This suppression went straight into the bloodline and targeted soul beasts, especially dragons. The terrifying pressure that originated from the depths of his bloodline caused the many giant dragons in the core area of the Lake of Life to tremble violently. All of them lowered their heads, and all of their arrogance disappeared. What replaced it was complete fear and submission. Chapter 1252. Even though they were different from ordinary soul beasts and were true God-ranked soul beasts, they could only beg for mercy under the suppression of Hua Yuhao's bloodline. Other than that, they couldn't do anything else. They didn't even have the strength to struggle. If Lu Yuan wanted to, all he had to do was slightly increase the suppression, and all these dragons would die from their bloodlines exploding. God-ranked soul beasts were just ants in front of Lu Yuan. Even if the dragon god was revived, he would still be an ant in front of Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan could kill a god of creation with a finger, so he could naturally kill a dragon god with a look. What more these so-called descendants of the dragon god? Under the suppression of Lu Yuan's bloodline, all they could do was crawl and tremble. After all, Lu Yuan's bloodline was still called the five-clawed Golden Dragon King bloodline. However, as his abilities increased, he fused with the clear air divine seed and experienced the baptism of the universe's origin. His bloodline level had improved a lot. If his bloodline was only barely on par with pure-blooded true dragons before, then now, his bloodline had completely advanced to the pure-blooded true dragon realm. In fact, he even had some strange traits that ordinary pure-blooded true dragon bloodlines did not have. His bloodline had truly formed a unique bloodline that belonged to him, and it had given birth to unique abilities. He could use his bloodline to create an independent dragon clan. Right now, he had the ability to do so. Since the dragon clan wasn't listening to him, Lu Yuan didn't mind nurturing his true, trusted descendants to completely resolve the dragon clan's chaos. As he thought about it, Lu Yuan's polychoria flashed with a cold light as he scanned the dragons below him. His razor-sharp gaze swept across the dragons one by one, carrying a biting, cold, murderous intent. "Xiaolan, tell me, which dragons are exerting their suppression on all of you?" Lu Yuan asked gently as he rubbed Xiaolan's head. "Xiaolan, don't..." Wang Qiu's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. Before she could finish speaking, Lu Yuan covered her mouth with a finger. Xiao don't disturb Xiaolon. If you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. Everyone has to be responsible for their own actions. Don't worry, I will only punish the culprit. I won't implicate the innocent. Since they bullied you, there's no way they won't be punished. You're my sisters, and even I can't bear to bully you, let alone them. I have to make an example out of them, and let everyone in Soul Beast know that I, Lu Yuan, won't allow anyone to bully my sisters. Anyone who disobeys will definitely die. Lu Yuan looked at Wang Qiu and spoke with a serious look on his face. This all right. Wang Qiu sighed softly when she heard this. Since Lu Yuan had made up his mind, it seemed like those giant dragons had to die. However, it wasn't a big problem to just kill the main culprit. It didn't implicate the other dragon tribes. It was a good result. Moreover, although she couldn't bear it, her heart was filled with joy and warmth. She felt Lu Yuan's concern and love for her. It was a good thing to have a brother who doted on her so much. Xiaolon, point out the giant dragons that are releasing their auras at you. Lu Yuan shifted his gaze and said plainly, All right, brother. Xiaolon acknowledged his words. Her big blue eyes blinked gently as she scanned the area. Although there were many giant dragons here, it wasn't difficult for her to find a few of them with her eyesight. I found you, brother. This one, and that one. Oh yes, brother, the huge dragon too. Xiaolon pointed with her small, white hands and found the dragons one by one. Very good, there's even a mountain dragon. How audacious. Lu Yuan's gaze sharpened as he glanced at those giant dragons. He tapped his index finger a few times in the air, and streaks of white light turned into 4 illusory fingers. They carried an intense aura that could destroy all life as they pressed down on those 4 giant dragons. Instantly, the surrounding space froze, and time stopped. 4 finger shadows that were thousands of meters long pressed down on those 4 giant dragons like pillars that could hold up the sky. Obuchi don't. An anxious voice rang out beside Lu Yuan's ear. However, Lu Yuan didn't stop. The 4 finger shadows landed on those 4 giant dragons and crushed their bodies into pieces. 4 beautiful soul rings rose from their bodies. 4 streaks of flowing light shot out. Those were their soul bones. Lu Yuan hadn't changed the rules yet, so these dragons would still drop soul rings and soul bones. It's a pity to waste them. I'll give them to you. Lu Yuan said plainly. The 4 soul bones split into 2 and shot into Wang Qiu and Xiaolan's bodies. They quickly fused with them. As for the soul rings' power, Lu Yuan scattered them and infused them into the Douluo continent. After all, they were still God-ranked. In particular, the mountain dragon was at the pinnacle of a Class 2 god. Their power was very beneficial to the Douluo continent. After doing all this, Lu Yuan sent Wang Qiu and Xiaolon to one side so that they could absorb their soul bones quietly. Only then did he turn around and look in the direction that the voice had come from. You're here. Lu Yuan looked at Guyena. His voice was calm and gentle. Guyena didn't say anything. She only stared at Lu Yuan with her big purple eyes. There was a hint of resentment in her eyes. Do you think I'm wrong? Lu Yuan asked plainly. I wouldn't dare. You're the heavenly emperor. Guyena shook her head. Her voice was calm, but her eyes said everything. You're being weird. Are you angry that I didn't stop? But do you know what they did? Lu Yuan said softly. He recounted everything that the dragons had done. Guyena's purple eyes trembled slightly after she heard what had happened. Her expression changed slightly, and all of her resentment dissipated. However, she was still stubborn. She pouted and muttered softly. Then you can just punish them. You don't have to kill them. My only punishment is to kill. I don't know how to do anything else. Lu Yuan placed his hand behind his back and said plainly, You're indeed our heavenly emperor, Lu. Impressive. However, I think this punishment is pretty good. There's nothing more intimidating than killing. A clear and melodious voice mixed with a hint of teasing rang out. Qian Renxue and Bibi Dong's delicate figures both stepped out of the space crack. Lu Yuan looked around. Just as he was about to speak, the spatial rift rippled again. Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, Pasizi, Ning Rongrong, and the others also walked out of the spatial rift. Lu Yuan's women had gathered at the Lake of Life. They all moved at almost the same time. However, Gu Yuna was the fastest. That was why she arrived first. Why are all of you here? Lu Yuan's eyes flashed as he asked. Chapter 1253. Isn't it because we can feel your pressure? We also want to see who is so blind to actually dare to anger our Lord Heavenly Emperor. Hulina giggled with a smile in her pink eyes. That's right, that's right. It's rare to see you angry, so we had to come and watch. Ning Rongrong followed up Hulina's words with a smile. Lu Yuan's lips twitched upon hearing this. He glared at the two women. Good heavens, so these two women came just to see him angry? They really do want to see the world in chaos. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed as he swept his gaze over the other women. Don't tell me you're the same as these two. How could that be? We're worried about you. So he hurried over. Who dares to anger our celestial emperor? They're courting death. Chihiro Snow said with a righteous expression. That's more like it. Cher is still the best. Lu Yuan smiled as his heart warmed. As expected of his most beloved Schwer, she was still reliable at critical moments and knew how to care for him. He was very comforted. Bibidan's expression became a little strange when she heard Lu Yuan sigh. If she remembered correctly, Chihiro Snow seemed to be here to watch a good show. He should be no different from Na and the others. His ability to lie through his teeth was getting stronger and stronger. He was quite similar to Obuchi back in the day. However, Bibidan's expression only changed slightly before quickly returning to normal. She walked over to Lu Yuan's side and grabbed onto Lu Yuan's arm in a very natural manner. What happened? We only heard a little of it just now. Did the dragon race do something overboard again? Why did you not hesitate to kill them? Bibidan's beautiful eyes were filled with curiosity. It seemed that the dragon tribe had caused quite a lot of trouble for Lu Yuan to kill in front of her. Lu Yuan was most likely really angry. These bastards actually dared to bully my little sister. How can I not kill them? Lu Yuan once again briefly explained the cause and effect, and then lightly said, That's right. Bibi Dong nodded seriously. In her opinion, it wouldn't be too much for Lu Yuan to kill anyone who dared to touch Wang Xiu and the rest. After all, at the end of the day, she and Lu Yuan were the same kind of people. Both of them cared deeply about the people around them. For the sake of their loved ones, they would not hesitate in the slightest, even if they had to kill countless people. Therefore, Bibi Don really felt that Lu Yuan was right from the bottom of his heart. After listening to Bibidan's words, Lu Yuan felt a lot more comfortable. Sure enough, there were still people who understood him. In other words, actually understood him very well. Lu Yuan thought to himself as he looked at Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, Ning Rongrong, Chihiro Snow, and even Pasizi. As for Gu Yina, alas, she was too concerned. Her background affected her judgment. She felt that punishing them was enough. However, in Lu Yuan's opinion, killing them was the only way to solve the problem. Gu Yina was biased towards the dragon tribe, but Lu Yuan was not. He would not show mercy to those who deserved to be killed. Obuchi, since these leading dragons deserve to die, and you've already killed them, can you show mercy to the rest of the dragon tribe? Can you stop killing them? Hearing the conversation between Lu Yuan and Bibi Don, Gu Yina paused slightly and hesitated for a while. Then, she walked to Lu Yuan's side and hugged Lu Yuan gently. Her purple eyes looked straight at Lu Yuan with a hint of pleading. It was not easy for the dragon tribe to recover. She didn't want to see Lu Yuan go on a killing spree and destroy the foundation of the dragon tribe again. As the ruler of the dragon tribe, she really didn't want to see such a scene happen again. Therefore, she could only plead with Lu Yuan in person. Is that so? But what if I have to kill them? What are you going to do? Seeing Gu Yuna's pleading eyes, Lu Yuan didn't know why, but a nameless anger suddenly rose in his heart. This anger came without any reason, but Lu Yuan couldn't help but say these words. The dragon tribe will always be the dragon tribe. It has been like this since we first met, and now that we're married, it's still the same. Will you always only care about the dragon tribe? Don't forget, you're Lu Yuan's wife first, and then the ruler of the dragon tribe. Gu Yuna's body trembled as soon as Lu Yuan's words came out. Her large purple eyes were filled with tears, and her expression was a little shocked. Was this something that Lu Yuan, who had always doted on her, would say? Why don't you answer me? If I want to kill them, what are you going to do? Lu Yuan continued. In the face of Lu Yuan's interrogation, Gu Yuna stared blankly at him. 1 second, 2 seconds later, 2 lines of tears fell from the corners of her eyes. Obuchi, do you know what you're saying? Are you possessed? Bibi Don couldn't help but pat Lu Yuan's shoulder and reprimanded him loudly. She knew that Lu Yuan must have been thinking too much. Lu Yuan was good at everything, but sometimes he would occasionally make a mistake, always tangling with some meaningless questions. In fact, in the final analysis, it was because he cared too much about Gu Yuna. If she didn't guess wrong, Lu Yuan must have been because Gu Yuna always talked about the dragon tribe in his ear. After a lot of times, he began to wonder whether he or the dragon tribe was more important in Gu Yuna's heart. That's right, he was so childish. Although Lu Yuan usually had great talent and bold vision, but sometimes he was childish, which was really childish and cute. He was so stingy and so fussy. In fact, as long as he thought about it carefully, he could easily figure it out, but at this moment, Lu Yuan was obviously stupid. Thinking of this, Bibi Don couldn't help but pat Lu Yuan again. What are you doing? Lu Yuan glanced at Bibi Don with dissatisfaction and muttered, What can I do? I'm telling you not to be stupid. How old are you? Why are you still acting like a child? Don't forget, Gu Yuna is still pregnant with your flesh and blood. She can't have violent mood swings. Bibi Don said angrily. As soon as these words were spoken, Lu Yuan's heart trembled, and the nameless anger in his heart dissipated. Looking at Gu Yuna's beautiful face that was flowing with sparkling and translucent tears, he couldn't help but feel endless love and pity in his heart. He had actually forgotten about the fact that Gu Yuna was pregnant. Damn it, Wiping away the tears on Gu Yuna's face, Lu Yuan opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but for a while, he was speechless. Just now, he had a good time interrogating her, but now he had to comfort her. He was a little confused for a while. Why is there something wrong with my brain? I've been holding it in for so many years, and it's not a serious problem, but it just had to erupt at this time. Could it be that the matter of Xiao Lan and Xiao, or her being bullied, has stimulated the dissatisfaction in his heart? Now, this resentment was vented, but looking at Gu Yuna's downcast eyes and sorrowful expression, Lu Yuan couldn't help but blame himself in his heart. This time, it seemed that he really did something wrong. Chapter 1254. Did I really do something wrong? Lu Yuan muttered to himself as his emotions surged. However, after thinking about it for a while, Lu Yuan couldn't help but shake his head. Perhaps saying this would make Gu Yuna unhappy, but he hadn't done anything wrong. As his wife, Gu Yuna was biased toward the dragon race. This wasn't right. At the very least, his status had to be above that of the dragon race, so she had to know her place first. No matter how close the dragon race was to her, they were only her subordinates and subjects. In contrast, he was Gu Yuna's pillar of support, the person who would accompany her for the rest of her life. Gu Yuna should know which was more important. What she needed to do was to support his decision, not stand on the opposite side of him and oppose him. Perhaps he could tolerate Gu Yuna's actions for a while, but not for a lifetime. Furthermore, in a sense, he was the celestial emperor, the supreme ruler of heaven and earth. So why should he tolerate this? Why should he be the celestial emperor? Wasn't to rule the world and do as he pleased? I've already chosen the divine realm and become the celestial emperor. I've already arranged everything properly. So what's wrong with being a little willful? So what if I want to kill you? Who dares to say no? Hence, he couldn't be wrong, either. At home, he was the husband, so he could do whatever he wanted to Gu Yuna, but now that they were outside, he was the ruler of heaven and earth. He wasn't going to apologize in public, nor was he going to admit his mistakes. The celestial emperor had the majesty of the celestial emperor. Lu Yuan could be wrong, but the celestial emperor could never be wrong. Furthermore, how could a mere dragon race compare with him? How could a mere dragon race affect his relationship with Gu Yuna? He definitely couldn't allow this to happen. Furthermore, if he were to admit defeat to Gu Yuna on this occasion, then the matter with the dragon race would never be resolved in a clean manner. He could be soft-hearted, but he definitely couldn't do that now. He had to prioritize his work, so he could only put aside his so-called personal feelings. Having made up his mind, Lu Yuan forcibly repressed the feelings of pity in his heart and regained his rationality. He wiped away the tears on Gu Yuna's face again before cupping her little face in his hands. "Don't cry. I have something to tell you." Gu Yuna didn't reply, but tears continued to flow from her eyes. "Are my words of no use, Gu Yuna?" Lu Yuan pinched Gu Yuna's chin and lifted her face up. His polychoria and her mysterious purple eyes were locked on each other. Gu Yuna's eyes were misty and her heart was sour. This was the first time she had seen Lu Yuan treat her with such an attitude. She felt an inexplicable sense of loss and a little grievance in her heart. In the past, Lu Yuan had always held her in the palm of his hand. When had he ever treated her like this? Seeing Lu Yuan's mood change again, Bibi Don was a little surprised. Didn't Lu Yuan figure it out? Why'd he go back? Did he do something stupid again? "Oh, Bu Qi, don't be rash. Gu Yuna is pregnant." Bibi Don couldn't help but remind him again and emphasize the word pregnant. "How could I not know? Are you teaching me how to do things?" Lu Yuan glanced at Bibi Dong indifferently, revealing the might of a celestial emperor. Bibidon's heart trembled, and her pupils contracted as a look of astonishment appeared on her face. However, she quickly came to a realization. Obuchi wasn't messing around. He was being serious. However, Bibidon knew this, but no one else could. Hulina couldn't help but say, "Obuchi, how can you talk to teacher like that? She's just concerned about you." Lu Yuan's eyelids didn't even twitch upon hearing this, as if he hadn't heard anything at all. Bibidon hurriedly stopped Hulina. "Nana, don't speak nonsense. Only the Celestial Emperor is here." Public was public, private was private. Although they were all the same person, the Celestial Emperor and Lu Yuan represented two completely different meanings. Lu Yuan could accept any criticism and could even admit defeat to Bibidon, but the Celestial Emperor's words were law, and everyone could only obey. The girls were not fools. They instantly realized that Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna were no longer talking about private matters, but about the survival of their race. This was a political matter. Unless Lu Yuan allowed it, they obviously didn't have the right to intervene. Even Bibidon and Chihiro Snow couldn't. After all, they were only dealing with a small matter, and only one person could decide such a big matter. And that was Lu Yuan, the Supreme Celestial Emperor. After understanding this point, they shut their mouths and quietly watched from the side. "I'll say it again, don't cry." Lu Yuan wiped the tears from Gu Yuna's eyes for the third time and said in a calm voice, "If you shed another tear, I'll kill a giant dragon. If you shed 2 tears, I'll kill 2 dragons, and so on and so forth. If you want the entire dragon race to be wiped out, then go ahead and cry." As soon as these words came out, Gu Yuna's tears immediately stopped, and she looked at Lu Yuan with her big watery eyes. Her pretty face was full of grievances, as if she was blaming him for treating her like this. "Don't look at me like that. Ask yourself, have I ever done anything wrong to you? Haven't I treated you well enough? Just because I killed a few giant dragons, you're giving me a hard time. Could it be that I'm inferior to a few giant dragons?" Lu Yuan asked in a flat voice. "When did I give you a hard time? I clearly didn't." Gu Yuna couldn't help but try to explain herself. Before Gu Yuna could finish her sentence, Lu Yuan could not help but let out a hum and raised his voice. "I was wrong." Gu Yuna admitted her mistake without hesitation. "Lu Yuan, you sure are straightforward." Lu Yuan glared at Gu Yuna. He was just about to get angry, but Gu Yuna's move made it so that he couldn't vent his anger at all. It was really uncomfortable to hold it in. "Do you really not want these giant dragons to die?" Lu Yuan asked in a low voice. "Yes, please spare their lives." Gu Yuna's eyes lit up, and she immediately pleaded. "Yeah, You sure decisive. I wonder if you'll be this concerned if I were to die one day, Lu Yuan said in a meaningful manner. Of course I will, Obuchi. I'm concerned about the dragon race, but I'm more concerned about you. If something were to happen to you, I would definitely go with you. Gu Yuna said in a firm voice. Is that so? I certainly hope so. Lu Yuan felt a lot better after hearing Gu Yuna's words, but he didn't forget what he had to do. Today really was the best opportunity to get rid of the dragon race, and he definitely couldn't miss it. I can spare these giant dragons, but I have a condition, Lu Yuan said in a soft voice. What condition? Gu Yuna couldn't help but ask in a low voice. From now on, you're not allowed to meddle in the affairs of the dragon race anymore. You'll relinquish your position as the ruler of the dragon race, and you'll just be a good imperial concubine and bear my children. What? Hearing this, Gu Yuna couldn't help but open her eyes wide and exclaim. Chapter 1255. Obuchi W. What did you say? Gu Yuna couldn't help but raise her head upon hearing Lu Yuan's words. She stared blankly at Lu Yuan with a hint of astonishment on her gorgeous face. I said that from now on, you don't have to concern yourself with the matters of the dragon tribe anymore. You can step down from your position as the ruler of the dragon tribe. Lu Yuan looked into Gu Yuna's eyes as he spoke in an indifferent voice. How can that be? Lu Yuan's repeated words caused Gu Yuna's heart to jolt, and she couldn't help but retort. Why not? Lu Yuan asked nonchalantly. I am the Silver Dragon King, the ruler of the dragon tribe. How can I not concern myself with the matters of the dragon tribe? Gu Yuna couldn't help but retort in a trembling voice. From now on, you're no longer the ruler of the dragon tribe. From now on, the dragon tribe doesn't need a ruler. Regardless of whether it's a soul beast or a human, there can only be one ruler, and that ruler is me. Lu Yuan glanced at Gu Yuna as he spoke in an indifferent voice. I don't accept this. You're bullying me. Gu Yuna bit down on her red lips as she stared at Lu Yuan with a stubborn expression. She didn't think that Lu Yuan would really lay his hands on the dragon tribe. Furthermore, the first thing he did was to remove her from her position. This made her feel quite displeased. You don't accept this? If you don't accept this, then bear with it. Lu Yuan pursed his lips as he spoke in an indifferent voice. I can't bear this. I object. Gu Yuna displayed her resistance once again. Your objection is invalid. Lu Yuan spoke in a soft voice. Obuchi, you. Gu Yuna glared at Lu Yuan with an enraged expression as she said, I don't agree to this. Hit me if you can. I won't hit you, but if you insist on being stubborn, then I can only send these dragons to hell first. You have to remember that they all died because of you. Lu Yuan said softly. He raised his right hand and made a downward slapping gesture. With Lu Yuan's current strength, this gentle slap would probably completely annihilate all the dragons. Seeing that Lu Yuan didn't seem to be joking at all, Gu Yuna became anxious. She couldn't be stubborn anymore. She suddenly grabbed Lu Yuan's hand and hugged Lu Yuan's arm in her arms. Obuchi, why are you forcing me? What did I do wrong for you to treat me like this? Tears began to flow from Gu Yuna's eyes again, and the grief in her heart was completely unleashed. She was very angry at Lu Yuan. She was angry at him for being so unreasonable and not leaving her any room for choice. The biggest mistake you've made is that you're still sitting on the throne of the Dragon Clan. It's precisely because of your existence that the Dragon Clan has the courage to act recklessly and give them unrealistic fantasies. I'm doing this to tell them that the Soul Beast Clan will never be able to sit on the throne of the Heavenly Emperor, and they will never be able to occupy the so-called dominant position, because I won't allow it. This world belongs to me, and I will do whatever I say. I want humans and soul beasts to live together as equals, so no one can change this decision. If anyone has any bad ideas, then I will definitely crush their ambitions. I will definitely do what I say. Lu Yuan spoke with decisiveness that could sever nails and chop iron. Then you don't have to cripple me. I can control them and not let them interfere with your decisions. You know that I've always supported your decisions. Gu Yuna held Lu Yuan's hand and spoke bitterly. Is that so? Then did you manage to control them? I gave you a chance from the very beginning. I warned you when these Dragon Clan members were resurrected, but you didn't do anything. Instead, because I doted on you, these brainless Dragon Clan members thought that they had someone to rely on and began to run amok. No, don't blame me for being ruthless. You can only blame yourself for not doing anything. Blame them for being brainless and disregarding my words. They didn't give me any face, so I naturally won't let them have an easy time. Lu Yuan stroked Gu Yuna's cheek, and a hint of tenderness flashed through his eyes as he said in a soft voice, "Furthermore, I promised you that I would revive the soul beasts, overthrow the divine realm, and give the soul beasts a chance to ascend to godhood. I've already done all of that. And you've also promised me that once you've completed your mission, you'll be together with me and live happily without caring about anything else. Now is the time for you to fulfill your promise. You won't go back on your word, right?" "Of course I won't, but..." "No buts." Lu Yuan directly cut Gu Yuna off. "Nah, don't forget that you once said that you would listen to everything I say in the future, so this matter has been decided. You're not allowed to object. You can just be a little wife from now on. As for the Dragon Clan, you don't have to interfere. Even if you do, perhaps it won't have much of an effect in the future," Lu Yuan said in a meaningful manner. "What do you mean?" Gu Yuna asked with a puzzled expression. "On the surface, I will create a new Dragon Clan to replace the old Dragon Clan. These mere descendants of the Dragon God are too lowly, so they can retire. In the future, the Dragon Clan will be a new Dragon Clan with the bloodline of the true dragon. They will also become the true leaders of the Soul Beast Clan, and all of them will be loyal to me." Lu Yuan spoke in a soft voice, and a dazzling light flashed through his eyes. As soon as these words were spoken, Gu Yuna was completely shocked. Her peerlessly beautiful face was no longer calm, and waves were surging in her heart. This is a drastic measure. This is to completely eliminate all possibility of the dragon race rebelling. Gu Yuna's red lips gaped slightly. Lu Yuan's actions had completely crushed all of the ambitions of the current Dragon Clan. Once the new Dragon Clan was created, the new Dragon Clan would be completely loyal to Lu Yuan, and all of Lu Yuan's orders would be carried out without the slightest bit of sloppiness. Lu Yuan didn't even need to do anything. These new Dragon Clan members would help Lu Yuan suppress the old Dragon Clan with the bloodline of the Dragon God. With the new Dragon Clan keeping the old Dragon Clan in check, and with Silver Dragon King Gu Yuna's downfall, the Soul Beast Clan would no longer have the ability to covet any leadership rights, and the Soul Beast Clan would be on equal footing with the Soul Beast Clan. As expected, Lu Yuan was still the same old Lu Yuan. Once he did, he would kill without giving anyone any leeway to turn the tables. "I don't want to do this either, but these brainless Dragon Clan members have forced me to do this, so I can only do this once and for all." Lu Yuan spoke in an indifferent voice as he flicked his right hand, and a drop of blood essence was ejected from his fingertips, exuding terrifying energy fluctuations. "With my blood essence, I create the 5 elemental Dragon Clan, mysterious light of creation and life birth." As Lu Yuan's dignified voice fell, boundless clear light sprinkled down from the heavens. Among the 12 drops of blood essence that Lu Yuan had flicked out, the first 5 drops of blood essence began to be nurtured, and the 5 elemental essences of the universe respectively drilled into these 5 drops of blood essence to fuse with them. The remaining 7 drops of blood essence quickly split into hundreds of tiny blood beads, and under the effect of the mysterious light of creation, they also began to quickly fuse with the 5 elemental essences. Chapter 12:56. Colorful lights converged as bursts of life force began to sprout, and the air began to slowly fill with a tyrannical pressure. The droplets of blood rapidly fused with the origins of the 5 elements, and under the effect of the mysterious light of creation, they gave birth to new life. Exuberant vitality rapidly spread out in all directions from the balls of light that had been created. BB Dawn, Chihiro Snow, and the others looked on curiously at this miraculous scene, and they clicked their tongues in amazement. Life was the greatest miracle in the world, and to them, it was definitely a novel experience to see countless lives being created from nothing. Meanwhile, Lu Yuan held Gu Yuna with one hand, and his right hand grasped the boundless energy from the universe and converged it into the blood essences that were stained with the 5 elemental essences. Creating the 5 elemental dragon clan also required a massive amount of energy. Furthermore, Lu Yuan's goal was not small. He wasn't going to just create an ordinary new dragon clan. These new dragons would definitely be more powerful than the current old dragon clan, and each of them would be at least at the god rank or above. Hence, this required even more energy. However, to Lu Yuan, who controlled the entire universe, all of this was a piece of cake. It was not difficult at all. With the infusion of sufficient energy, the new dragon clan took shape even faster. Soon, balls of light exuded powerful dragon might, and terrifying bloodline fluctuations spread in all directions. Sensing the powerful dragon might, Gu Yuna's delicate body shuddered, and a hint of astonishment flashed through her eyes. The bloodline powers of these dragons were extremely powerful, and there were a few among them that vaguely surpassed her bloodline powers, and they were not inferior to the dragon god's bloodline powers. The current old dragon clan was completely insignificant in front of them. Just a bloodline suppression was enough to make these old dragon clan members with the dragon god's bloodline bow their heads. It was just a little bit of blood essence, and Lu Yuan had created an extremely terrifying clan. With the presence of these dragons, the future of the Soul Beast race would most likely be firmly grasped by Lu Yuan. She would also lose the opportunity to interfere with the Soul Beast race again. All of the ambitions of the Soul Beast race would be destroyed without her having to do anything. The peaceful coexistence between the Soul Beast clan and the human race would become more and more stable. However, Gu Yuna was a little dejected at the sight of this. It wasn't that she was greedy for power, but she had been completely excluded in the blink of an eye after leading the Soul Beast clan for so long. This was a very uncomfortable feeling. Furthermore, she still felt a little resentful toward Lu Yuan. Even though there was a reason for this, Lu Yuan had acted too decisively and mercilessly, and she was unable to accept it. Lu Yuan had been looking at Gu Yuna the whole time, and he took in all of her expressions. Although he felt a little heartache, he didn't waver in his decision to cut the Gordian knot. For the sake of the soul beasts and humans, and for the sake of his future happiness, he had to be ruthless today. Lu Yuan tapped a finger in the air before injecting bursts of energy into it. However, his eyes remained fixed on Gu Yuna as he asked in a calm voice, "You seem to be a little shocked, Nar. Are you shocked by the new dragon race that I've created? The bloodlines of these new dragons are far more powerful than those of the dragon god. I'm not trying to boast, but even the weakest among them is not inferior to the 9 dragon monarchs in terms of bloodline, and the 5 most powerful ones are comparable to the dragon god in terms of bloodline, so they're even more powerful than you. What do you think? The new dragons that I've created aren't bad, right?" Lu Yuan said with a smile. There was a hint of pride in his expression. This was his current strength. Even if it was just a drop of blood essence, the dragon clan created would be superior to Gu Yuna in terms of bloodline. In the face of Lu Yuan's smug expression, Gu Yuna's expression stiffened, and she rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. She lowered her little head and sulked in silence. She was already very angry, yet Lu Yuan was still trying to piss her off on purpose. That was really too much. Furthermore, she was the Silver Dragon Monarch, so how could she not care about her reputation? A mere newly created dragon was stronger than her in terms of bloodline. She felt very conflicted. Originally, only Lu Yuan's bloodline was above hers. She didn't mind because Lu Yuan was her man. But now, the bloodline of the new dragons that had just appeared in this world was superior to hers, and this was something that she couldn't accept. Lu Yuan wasn't enraged by Gu Yuna's outburst. These new dragon bloodlines were indeed very powerful, but Lu Yuan was still going to limit their powers. His original intention was for the humans and soul beasts to coexist in harmony, so both sides were basically equal in power, and he wouldn't allow either side to become too powerful. On the other hand, he still had to take Gu Yuna's emotions into consideration. At the very least, he couldn't really allow irrelevant people to surpass his woman in terms of power. There wouldn't be a true god monarch among these new dragons, and half-step god monarchs would be their limit. After kissing Gu Yuna's forehead, Lu Yuan smiled, and his right hand began to make a series of hand gestures. Bloodline evolution, dragon birth, 5 elements dragon tribe. Emerge. Lu Yuan's soft voice rang out in the air. As the saying went, words were law. As soon as the words were spoken, the many balls of light shattered, and valiant divine dragons emerged from the balls of light one after another. Every divine dragon had the appearance of a true dragon, and the only difference was that they all had a pair of huge dragon wings on their backs, and they only had 4 claws on their feet. In the end, they were formed from a drop of Lu Yuan's blood essence that had split and fused with the 5 elements, so they hadn't reached the level of 5 claws yet. The only difference was that the 5 divine dragons that were first born from Lu Yuan's drop of blood were all thousands of meters long, and they all had 5 claws and dragon wings on their backs. They roared into the sky and let out loud dragon roars. These dragons all controlled the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, and possessed the ability to control the 5 elements. Among them, the 5 five-clawed divine dragons were the most outstanding. Lu Yuan stared at these new dragons that filled the sky, and the 5-clawed golden dragon king bloodline in his body surged, and a terrifying dragon's might swept out. Many of the new dragons roared in unison, and in the end, they all knelt at Lu Yuan's feet. We pay our respects to the Dragon Emperor. Many of the divine dragons spoke in unison, and their postures were extremely respectful. These were all Lu Yuan's blood descendants, and they couldn't be more loyal to him. Lu Yuan swept his gaze over all of the divine dragons before settling his gaze on the 5 five-clawed divine dragons at the very front. These 5 five-clawed divine dragons all possessed bloodlines comparable to the dragon gods, and both their physical bodies and spiritual power were extremely powerful. Furthermore, all of them had reached the half-step God King level, and their overall combat prowess was comparable to that of a God King level powerful being. It could be said that these 5 five-clawed divine dragons had the combat prowess of 5 God Kings, and each of them was no less powerful than the Golden Dragon King. Perhaps their divine power paled in comparison to the Golden Dragon Kings, but the advantage of their bloodlines allowed them to make up for their lack of divine power. They didn't need to rely on super divine tools to fight God Kings, and this was the power of the true dragon bloodline. Chapter 12:57. There were 5 five-clawed divine dragons that could fight a God King. In addition to the Mountain Dragon King, Water Dragon King, Fire Dragon King, and Titan giant ape spirit souls that could fight a God King for a short period of time after Lu Yuan became a god. The Soul Beast clan was already quite powerful. Of course, this was one of Lu Yuan's goals. If he wanted humans and soul beasts to coexist peacefully, the gap in strength couldn't be too big. There were countless human gods in the god realm. Bibidon and Chihiro Snow were at the peak of godly kings. They weren't any weaker than the dragon god back then, or even stronger. The soul beasts originally only had Gu Yuna and the future Snow Emperor. With Lu Yuan's actions, the soul beast strength was slowly catching up. With the addition of a new dragon race, the soul beast foundation wasn't much weaker than the human gods. As the heavenly emperor, in order to maintain the balance between the two sides, Lu Yuan had put in a lot of effort. He revived the old dragon race and created the new dragon race. Everything was for the sake of the peaceful coexistence between humans and soul beasts. But fortunately, with the appearance of the new dragon race, this matter had basically come to an end. The soul beast would be completely stabilized. He had a supreme position among the human gods. The 5 godly kings had been defeated by him. The human gods were abnormally obedient, so he didn't have to worry about people disobeying him. In this way, the basic structure of the future would be completely completed. As long as today's problem was solved, there wouldn't be such a troublesome matter in the future. In the end, he was actually a person who hated troublesome things. Staring at the five-clawed divine dragons at the front, Lu Yuan said nonchalantly, "All of you are the most powerful five-clawed dragon tribe that I've ever created. Therefore, I hereby confer all of you the five-clawed dragon kings. White dragon, you were born to control the metal element. You have a strongest attack. I confer upon you the title of White Dragon King, the head of the White Dragon race. Azure Dragon, you were born to control the wood element. You are the head of the wood-type soul beasts. I confer upon you the title of Azure Dragon King, the head of the Azure Dragon race. Yellow Dragon, you were born with the ability to control the earth element. You are the leader of the earth-type soul beasts and possess the strongest defense. I confer upon you the title of Yellow Dragon King, ruling over the Yellow Dragon clan. You're the white, green, red, black, and yellow dragon kings. You are in charge of the dragon clan of the five elements. You will serve me directly. If I abdicate, the new dragon clan will be led by the new celestial emperor. Every celestial emperor must possess the bloodline of the five-clawed golden dragon king. Furthermore, from today onwards, the five-clawed golden dragon king will be the royal family of the dragon clan, and the five elements dragon clan will respect and revere him. However, other than the heavenly emperor, you five elements dragon kings will not need to obey any orders, even if you possess the bloodline of the five-clawed golden dragon king. Lu Yuan's calm voice sounded, directly confirming the absolute leadership of the heavenly emperor over the five-element dragon clan. Aside from the celestial Arch, no one else with the bloodline of the five-clawed golden dragon king could command the five elements dragon king. This was for the sake of preparing for a rainy day, and for the sake of the stability of the soul beast race. It could be foreseen that as long as his descendants didn't undergo a bloodline mutation, they would all possess the bloodline of the five-clawed golden dragon king. If anyone with the bloodline of the five-clawed golden dragon king could command the five elements dragon king and control the entire five-element dragon clan, then the entire soul beast race would fall into chaos sooner or later. Furthermore, Lu Yuan had promised Gu Yuna that the position of the future ruler of the soul beasts would be held by his and Gu Yuna's son. The position of ruler of the soul beasts didn't matter, but there was a precondition to its existence, and that was that it couldn't interfere with the heavenly emperor's authority. Now, Lu Yuan's arrangements had resolved this problem. The ruler of the soul beasts still enjoyed immense power and nominally ruled over all of the soul beasts, but the five elements dragon king was an exception. Through the five elements dragon king, he could rule over the five-element dragon clan. This way, the heavenly emperor would still have great authority over the soul beasts, which would ensure his authority. Otherwise, if all of the soul beasts were in the hands of the ruler of the soul beasts, the heavenly emperor would have no control over the soul beasts. This would inevitably be detrimental to the heavenly emperor's rule, and at the same time, the political situation would become unstable. After all, if one had too much power, it was inevitable that they would develop some ideas that they shouldn't have. Lu Yuan didn't want to see his sons fight over power. As such, as their father, he could only personally take care of the latent dangers. "We await your command." The five elements dragon kings responded in unison upon hearing Lu Yuan's words. At this moment, the five-element dragon clan could be considered to have been completely established. Very good. Lu Yuan looked at the five elements dragon king with a satisfied smile. With the emergence of the new dragon clan, the old dragon clan would completely lose power, and the influence of the dragon god's bloodline would be slowly dispelled. It was only a matter of time. As for now, Lu Yuan had another thing to do, and that was to destroy some of the old dragon clan's unrealistic fantasies. Aside from Gu Yuna, there was another ruler of the old dragon clan, and its name was the Golden Dragon King. Now, Lu Yuan was going to eliminate this so-called Golden Dragon King. Lu Yuan looked up into the sky and made a grabbing motion with his right hand, passing through boundless space to arrive in the divine realm and the forbidden god realm. Lu Yuan made a grabbing motion, and the seal on the forbidden god realm was completely broken. The Golden Dragon King, which had been sealed away for countless years, was reborn. Within the divine realm, many gods were stunned, and they hurried toward the forbidden god realm. The goddess of life and the god of destruction, who had already been stripped of their godhood, led the way. No one knew better than them just how much damage the Golden Dragon King would inflict on the divine realm. I've finally been reborn. The Golden Dragon King's body, which was over 10,000 feet in length, appeared. Its entire body seemed to have been forged from gold, and its muscles were intertwined with one another, causing the space around it to tremor as it moved. Despicable gods, I'm going to destroy all of you this time. The Golden Dragon King threw its head back and roared, but before it had a chance to celebrate for too long, a massive hand grabbed onto its body like it was a little chick. What the hell is this? Let go of me. The Golden Dragon King struggled with all its might, but it was to no avail. The massive hand grabbed it and quickly left the divine realm. When the goddess of life and the god of destruction arrived, they happened to see this scene. The celestial emperor, there's no one else other than him. The goddess of life smiled wryly. The Golden Dragon King was definitely on the level of a god king, so there was no one else other than Lu Yuan who could capture it so easily. But why did the celestial emperor capture the Golden Dragon King? The goddess of life asked, puzzled. Maybe he wants to kill it. The god of destruction said softly. How do you know? The goddess of life asked. Intuition, like repel-like, and the celestial emperor is the Silver Dragon King's husband, so I don't think he likes the Golden Dragon King. The god of destruction said with a straight face. That's possible. After all, the Golden Dragon King and the Silver Dragon King can both become gods after devouring each other. It's understandable that the Celestial Emperor would do this for the Silver Dragon King's safety. The Goddess of Life said thoughtfully. Chapter 1258. But this is also a good thing. The Celestial Thearch's actions have removed a potential threat to the divine realm. In contrast with the Silver Dragon King, this Golden Dragon King is born brainless and only knows how to destroy and slaughter, so it's best to kill him. The Destruction God sighed softly. That's true. The Life Goddess nodded slightly, and a faint smile appeared on her beautiful face. If the Golden Dragon King died, it would definitely be a good thing for the God Realm. Although she had lost her position as the Life Goddess, she still cared about the God Realm as much as before. As the elders of the God Realm, she was still very concerned about the safety of the God Realm. Although the Celestial Emperor is domineering, he is quite methodical and impartial. He treats both humans and soul beasts equally. Little Z, I think it might not be a bad thing for the Celestial Emperor to be in charge of the God Realm. The Life Goddess pondered for a moment as she looked at the monstrous hand that had already left the God Realm. Hearing this, the Destruction God paused for a moment, and a complicated expression appeared on his face. But in the end, he still killed 2 God Kings and the Azura God. He killed 3 of the 5 overgods of the deity world. What's more, all of the original Sin gods under my command died at his hands. If you wanted to assist him, I really can't do it. The Destruction God sighed softly. He and his wife had been together for half their lives, so how could he not understand the meaning of the Life Goddess words? Lu Yuan was a qualified and courageous leader who deserved to be followed, but he still couldn't get over the hurdle in his heart. Little Z, that's not right. Although the Celestial Emperor did kill the 2 God Kings and the Azura God, he was in a completely different position. You can't blame him. Didn't we also want to kill him and the Silver Dragon King back then? It's just that the Celestial Emperor was stronger and more powerful. Even if we fused into creation gods, we were still easily defeated. It's because we weren't strong enough, and it has nothing to do with anyone else. Besides, didn't the Celestial Emperor let us go in the end? It's clear that the Celestial Emperor is loyal and knows how to repay kindness. He's not a bad person. Now that the Heavenly Emperor is the master of the God Realm, with his strength, he can naturally lead the God Realm to an unprecedented state of prosperity. Isn't this what we've always been pursuing? We are not surrendering to the Celestial Emperor. We are doing everything for the Divine Realm. Little Z, you have the ability and ambition. Do you want to waste your talent just like that? It has always been your dream to promote the development of the divine realm. The goddess of life tried her best to persuade the god of destruction. She was doing this for the sake of the god realm, and also out of concern for her husband. The god of destruction had been depressed and sighing all this time. She knew the god of destruction very well. He was a very ambitious person and had his own ambitions. But now, he could only stay at home and could not display his talents. He must be extremely disappointed and resentful. A hero without a place to display his talents. That was why she said these words to persuade the god of destruction. After all, she and the god of destruction had lost their god positions. Moreover, the god realm had stabilized, but they were still in the god realm. The god of destruction had never mentioned the idea of leaving. In fact, this in itself spoke volumes. Sure enough, once the goddess of life's words came out, the god of destruction's body trembled slightly. His lips parted slightly, and he sighed deeply. The goddess of life's words directly pierced his heart and broke the estrangement in his heart. Little Green, you're right. Compared to the revitalization of the god realm, the past is not important. But there's still a problem. Even if I don't care about the past, will the Celestial Emperor be willing to use me? A new emperor brings in new officials. Little Green, we're old people who have been eliminated. The god of destruction sighed softly. Removing the estrangement in his heart from the past was one of his worries. Don't worry about that. The Celestial Emperor is naturally magnanimous. With your abilities, I'm sure the Celestial Emperor will let bygones be bygones. I'll personally talk to the Celestial Emperor about this. I'm sure you'll succeed, the goddess of life said confidently. She had some understanding of Lu Yuan. A wise leader like Lu Yuan was very clear about his personal and business matters. Lu Yuan himself might not like the god of destruction, but as long as the god of destruction had the ability, he would use him. Personal prejudice would not affect his control of the overall situation. This was a skill that every wise leader had. Seeing the goddess of life's confident expression, the god of destruction hesitated for a moment. In the end, he nodded gently and said, "Then I'll have to trouble you, Little Green. All right, leave it to me." Hearing this, the goddess of life smiled gently and sweetly, exuding an enchanting charm. Great Stardew Forest, Lake of Life. Lu Yuan held Gu Yuna in his left hand and grabbed the Golden Dragon King in his right hand as if he were pinching a little chick. The Golden Dragon King struggled violently, letting out loud dragon roars. Golden Dragon King. Gu Yuna looked up at the Golden Dragon King in the air and couldn't help but softly murmur. That's right, this is the Golden Dragon King. The new dragon clan has been born. In order to eliminate the last of the evil thoughts in the hearts of the old dragon clan, and also to eliminate the hidden dangers of the god realm, I will kill the Golden Dragon King today. After today, the Golden Dragon King will cease to exist. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with killing intent as he spoke. Must he be so ruthless? Gu Yuna frowned. You know me. I don't like to leave behind hidden dangers. Furthermore, your existence makes me want to kill it. Golden Dragon King and Silver Dragon King. Humph. Sounds like a good match. Lu Yuan snorted softly. You. Gu Yuna couldn't help but laugh at Lu Yuan's words. How could he be so childish? It's just a name, but he's jealous? You're the Celestial Emperor. Gu Yuna said with amusement. Can't the Celestial Emperor be petty? In any case, I'm going to kill it, and no one will be able to stop me. Lu Yuan said as he pursed his lips. What about your demeanor as a Celestial Emperor? Gu Yuna couldn't help but chuckle. Killing it is the best I can do. Other people will only get angry and fight if they're jealous, but I'll kill it on the spot. Lu Yuan gently waved his right hand through the air, and boundless spatial power sealed the Golden Dragon King on the spot. He then pointed his index finger forward, and boundless sharp energy pierced directly into the Golden Dragon King's mind, completely destroying its soul. With Lu Yuan's powers, killing the Golden Dragon King would be as easy as crushing an ant. Come! Lu Yuan waved a hand through the air, and two streaks of light emerged from the Golden Dragon King's body before flying to Lu Yuan's side. Chapter 1259. The two streaks of golden light flew in front of Lu Yuan and revealed their true appearance. One of them was a golden rhombus-shaped crystal with rich golden dragon king origin power flowing within it. It was filled with God King level divine power, and it was the golden dragon king's god core. If anyone could completely absorb this divine core, they would have a chance to become the new golden dragon king, just like Tang Walin had done in the original timeline. The other was an extremely complete divine bone, and it was a torso soul bone. This was none other than the soul bone produced by the Golden Dragon King, and it was most likely the only one of its kind in the entire world. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed as he stowed the Golden Dragon King's torso bone away. I'll leave the Golden Dragon King's torso bone to our son, and I'll give this god core to Chiao. She's a three-eyed golden lion, and she also has the Golden Dragon King's bloodline, so she's a good match for the Golden Dragon King's god core. Lu Yuan spoke softly as he waved his right hand, and the Golden Dragon King's god core disappeared into Wang Qiuer's body. Wang Qiuer's soul power instantly skyrocketed, and her bloodline power also began to evolve rapidly. Lu Yuan tapped his finger lightly, and as he left behind a portion of the energy, he sealed away the excess energy that Wang Qiuer couldn't absorb. This way, when Wang Qiuer became stronger, she could gradually break the seal and absorb the remaining energy within the Golden Dragon King's god core. Once Wang Qiuer absorbed all of the Golden Dragon King's divine core's energy, she would become the new Golden Dragon King. Even if she was slightly weaker than the original Golden Dragon King, and she might not be able to reach the Godly King level, she should be able to contend with a Godly King with her powerful physical body. If Wang Qiuer were to be bestowed a godly divine seat, she would be firmly at the God King level. After all, she was his sister, and they were related by blood. Lu Yuan had already made plans for her. Wang Qiuer was doing her best to absorb the energy within the Golden Dragon King's god core, and at the same time, she was refining her bloodline. From this day onward, Wang Qiuer possessed the true Golden Dragon King bloodline. Lu Yuan looked at Wang Qiuer for a while, and only withdrew his gaze after ascertaining that everything was normal. Now that the Golden Dragon King had been slain, the rest of the matters were more or less settled. Lu Yuan turned his gaze toward Gu Yuna. Gu Yuna stared at him with her beautiful purple eyes. "Are you feeling better now?" Gu Yuna asked. "It's quite comfortable, he." Lu Yuan chuckled. Gu Yuna couldn't help but roll her eyes, but she didn't say anything. She didn't actually care that much about the Golden Dragon King's death. Her relationship with the Golden Dragon King wasn't very good, and they both wanted to devour each other to become dragon gods. The reason why she spoke sarcastically to Lu Yuan was that Lu Yuan didn't show any mercy before, so she was a little resentful. She was now even more powerful than the original dragon god, so she didn't really care that much about the Golden Dragon King's power. On top of that, the dragon god seat was going to be passed down to her son, so she wasn't angry that Lu Yuan had slain the Golden Dragon King. With the Golden Dragon King dead, there was one less dragon god left behind. Even though Wang Qiuer had inherited the Golden Dragon King's divine core, she was no longer the Golden Dragon King, after all. However, Lu Yuan didn't disappoint her. Even though the Golden Dragon King was dead, its power was still with the soul beasts, so Lu Yuan still had some integrity in his actions. The new dragon race has already been born, and the Golden Dragon King is dead. What else do you want to do? Do it all. Let me see just how cruel you can be. Gu Yuna looked at Lu Yuan with a cold voice. There's nothing else that needs to be done now. Nah, I know you're angry, and you're blaming me, but I have a clear conscience. I had no choice but to do this for the greater good. Lu Yuan heaved a faint sigh. You always have excuses. Gu Yuna harumphed in an indifferent manner. I'm not lying. This is the truth. As the Celestial Emperor, this is my responsibility, and my status means that I can't be biased. Nah, you were once a ruler, so you should be able to understand me. Lu Yuan said in a grim voice. If I don't understand, you can remove me from my position for the greater good? You can oppress my race for the greater good? What am I to you? Gu Yuna asked in a loud voice. You're my wife, of course, Lu Yuan replied. Then why are you still treating me like this? Guyuna couldn't help but ask. I had no choice. I was forced to do so, and those old dragons were courting death. Didn't I give them a chance? Didn't I warn you? I told you from the very beginning, and you didn't cherish that opportunity. Lu Yuan replied in an indifferent manner. So you're blaming me? Guyuna looked at Lu Yuan with an interrogative expression. That's not what I meant, Lu Yuan denied. That's exactly what you meant. You're blaming me. Guyuna yelled. All right, I'm blaming you, all right? In all fairness, as a leader, you didn't do anything and allowed your subordinates to do as they pleased. Are you in the wrong? Lu Yuan couldn't help but raise his voice. You. Lu Yuan's sudden outburst gave Guyuna a fright. She stared at Lu Yuan, and her chest rose and fell as she stammered, unable to utter a single word. All right, stop arguing. Don't be so agitated. Although this matter was forced by the circumstances, I did deal with it a little too much. I admit it. However, you are also in the wrong. Now that things have come to this, how about we each take a step back and stop arguing? Lu Yuan said softly. My heart is twisted, and I feel uncomfortable. Unless you apologize and return the position of ruler to me, I'll continue to be angry, and you won't have a good time either. Guyuna began to demand an exorbitant price. Stop messing around, all right? I'm messing around. You said that you would always listen to me, and now you're not listening. Did I say that I would listen to you? You must have remembered wrongly. You're not going to admit what you said. I won't admit it. Unless you return the position of ruler to me, then I'll listen to you. Don't even think about it. Lu Yuan decisively refused Guyuna's unreasonable request. Then I'll continue to be angry. Guyuna threatened. Then be angry. I'd like to see how long you can be angry for, Lu Yuan said nonchalantly. Ew, you don't love me anymore. Guyuna's eyes reddened upon hearing Lu Yuan's words, and tears were about to flow down her cheeks. Stop acting. There's no room for discussion. Lu Yuan directly exposed Guyuna's clumsy acting. Guyuna harumphed coldly before glaring viciously at Lu Yuan. Then, she pursed her lips and tore open a spatial rift before flying away. Obuchi, Guyuna is so angry that she's running away. Aren't you going to chase after her? Bibidon asked. Why should I chase after her? Lu Yuan asked nonchalantly. Abusing your wife feels good, but chasing after her is like burning a hole in the ground. If you don't comfort her now, you'll suffer in the future, Chihiro Snow said in a soft voice at the sight of Lu Yuan's nonchalant expression. PSH. Lu Yuan pursed his lips. The Celestial Arch is the one abusing his wife. What does this have to do with me, Lu Yuan? I, Lu Yuan, have never abused my wife. Don't accuse me of such nonsense. Otherwise, I'll sue you for slander. Bibidon, Chihiro Snow, Hulina, all of the women. Chapter 1260. Following the death of the Golden Dragon King, the event in the Great Stardow Forest had finally come to an end. Following the emergence of the 5 Elemental Dragon Clan, the internal strife among the Soul Beasts had more or less been quelled. The new 5 Elemental Dragon Clan was powerful enough to suppress the old Dragon Clan left behind by the Dragon God. Even though the old Dragon Clan was slightly weaker, they had once been the rulers of the Soul Beasts, and they had a strong foundation. They were also quite popular among the Soul Beasts, so even though they were slightly weaker, they still had the ability to retaliate. Lu Yuan had never wanted to monopolize the 5 Elemental Dragon Clan. Instead, he wanted them to keep each other in check. The 5 Elemental Dragon Clan was extremely powerful, but they lacked a foundation among the Soul Beasts. Even though the old Dragon Clan was weak, they had the foundation of the Soul Beasts supporting them. As such, the two clans were able to maintain a balance. It wasn't difficult for the old Dragon Clan to protect their own territory, but their so-called ambitions that they shouldn't have had were completely crushed. The idea of the old Dragon Clan dominating the world had been completely abandoned. However, setting aside the conflict between the old Dragon Clan and the new 5 Elemental Dragon Clan, The overall power of the Soul Beast had increased significantly following the emergence of the new 5 elemental dragon clan. Lu Yuan had finally fulfilled his promise to Gu Yuna to revitalize the Soul Beasts. Some of the differences between the two of them lay in the fact that Gu Yuna was more concerned about the revitalization of the old dragon clan, while Lu Yuan was more concerned about the Soul Beasts as a whole. In his eyes, the dragon clan was the dragon clan, and they were only a part of the Soul Beasts. As such, he elevated the status of the Soul Beasts and gave them a chance to shine, but he also kept the old dragon clan's ambitions in check. All of this was for the sake of better development. However, in order to settle this once and for all, his methods were a little extreme. He didn't care about other people, but he still had to give Gu Yuna an explanation. Martial Soul Palace. In Chihiro Snow's room in the pavilion at the center of the lake, Lu Yuan's sudden appearance immediately alerted Chihiro Snow, who was reading a book in silence. Seeing Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow put down her book, smiled sweetly, and asked, "How is it? Have you comforted her?" Lu Yuan glanced at her, then walked over to Chihiro Snow's side and sat down. He sighed softly. "I've finally comforted him. This time, I'm really tired out. I didn't expect to be so terrifying when she's angry." Although he was stubborn, Lu Yuan still cared about Gu Yuna very much. After changing the laws of heaven and earth and changing the cultivation method, he immediately went to comfort Gu Yuna. However, this time, Gu Yuna was very angry. He had to coax her for more than half a month, and a lot of his brain cells had died. Only then did he manage to coax her. Gu Yuna, who was usually gentle and soft, was making things difficult for him to handle. Haha, isn't this what you asked for? Who told you to abuse your wife? Now do you know what it means to chase your wife into the crematorium? After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow teased. "Sigh, you're making me feel even more wronged. The one who abused his wife is the Celestial Arch, and now I, Lu Yuan, have to go and comfort her. There's no justice in this world." Lu Yuan sighed and wailed softly. "All right, stop talking nonsense." Chihiro Snow patted Lu Yuan and rolled her eyes at him. Hee. Lu Yuan chuckled and couldn't help but pull Chihiro Snow into his arms. Chihiro Snow grabbed Lu Yuan's mischievous hand and said softly, "Wait, be careful. What's wrong?" Lu Yuan asked. Chihiro Snow looked at her belly and smiled, but didn't say anything. "You're pregnant?" Lu Yuan's mind flashed, and his heart trembled. His voice trembled with a trace of surprise and a hint of nervousness. "Yes, you're going to be a father again." Chihiro Snow pursed her lips and smiled, her smile warm and bright. "All right." After receiving Chihiro Snow's confirmation, Lu Yuan couldn't help but shout, and his polychoria blossomed with dazzling light. After Gu Yuna, Chihiro Snow was also pregnant. The joy in his heart was indescribable. Come, share, sit down." Lu Yuan hurriedly changed his position so that Chihiro Snow could lie more comfortably in his arms. "When did you find out?" Lu Yuan gently stroked Chihiro Snow's belly and asked softly. "Not long after we returned from the Great Stardow Forest. I felt a faint life aura rising from my belly. It should be from that time when you and I were pregnant." Chihiro Snow's golden eyes blinked as she spoke softly. "So it's been less than a month?" Lu Yuan asked. "Yes," Chihiro Snow said. "Then you have to recuperate during this period. The first 3 months will be very dangerous, but you'll be fine after 3 months. You don't have to deal with those administrative matters. I'll handle them myself." Lu Yuan couldn't help but exhort. "Not only that, but you'd better sleep in a different room from me, so I won't be able to serve you today," Chihiro Snow said with a smile. "That's nothing. It's just a small matter. The child is more important," Lu Yuan immediately replied. "Ha, that's true. You have many wives anyway. Even if you can't sleep here, you have other places to sleep," Chihiro Snow said with a smile. "Why do I feel that your words sound a bit strange?" Lu Yuan said with a strange expression. "It's just the truth, isn't it?" Chihiro Snow laughed. "If you have to put it that way, that's true." Lu Yuan nodded. 7 wives were indeed a lot. Excluding the pregnant Chihiro Snow and Gu Yuna, there were still 5. He didn't have to worry about not having a place to go. Gently touching Lu Yuan's cheek, Chihiro Snow said with a smile, "And in addition to your wives, you forgot that there is another person waiting for you." "You mean the Snow Emperor?" Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and asked, "Who else? Is there someone else?" Chihiro Snow's golden eyes stared straight at Lu Yuan. "How is that possible? Of course there is no one else." Lu Yuan loudly denied. "Let's hope so. In any case, if you really want to find someone else, I can't stop you, right?" Chihiro Snow said faintly. Hearing this, Lu Yuan unhappily looked at Chihiro Snow. "This girl is at it again. Did the Snow Emperor look for you?" Lu Yuan's eyes blinked, as if he thought of something, and asked softly, "She just left not long ago, but she didn't ask me to persuade her. She just came to see me. I can see that she's not in a good mood. Obuchi, you've made her wait for too long. The Snow Emperor is a rare good girl. You still owe her an explanation, so don't let her down." Chihiro Snow said with a serious expression. Her relationship with the Snow Emperor was very good. After all, the Snow Emperor was once her martial soul and spirit soul. Their relationship was very close, and she also approved of the Snow Emperor. She was very clear about the Snow Emperor's feelings for Lu Yuan. It could be said that they were deeply in love. She also didn't want to see the Snow Emperor wait so bitterly. Even if it was from Lu Yuan's point of view, she was very clear that Lu Yuan also liked the Snow Emperor. Therefore, she was willing to help. Chapter 1261. Of course, I won't let her down. It's just that I haven't had the time to see her. Listening to Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan said with a smile. "Oh, is that so?" Chihiro Snow lightly asked. "Of course. And Cher, do you think that with my character, I can bear to let down a beauty like the Snow Emperor?" Lu Yuan softly asked. "That's not true. After all, you are an old pervert. The Snow Emperor's appearance is not inferior to mine, and her temperament is even more refined. You must have coveted her for a long time. I was worried for nothing." When Lu Yuan said this, Chihiro Snow felt relieved. After all, she understood Lu Yuan's nature quite well. The Snow Emperor was different from Duge Yin and Lu Yuan. The most important reason why Duge Yin and Yi Lingling couldn't pursue Lu Yuan was that their appearance wasn't top-notch. They didn't get Lu Yuan's point. However, the Snow Emperor was different. She was absolutely devastatingly beautiful. Lu Yuan must have been tempted for a long time. Letting down the Snow Emperor. This should be something impossible. Chihiro Snow was relieved, but the corner of Lu Yuan's mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. He softly defended himself. "Cher, I'm just being protective of the fairer sex. You can say that I'm an appearance lover, but you're going too far by saying that I'm an old pervert. Isn't that the same thing? What's the difference between an appearance lover and an old pervert?" Chihiro Snow blinked her eyes and lightly said, "Of course there's a difference. I'm just purely appreciating beauty. I don't have any bad intentions, so you can't call me an old pervert." Lu Yuan righteously said, "Hee, purely appreciating beauty. Do you think I believe it or not?" Chihiro Snow chuckled. "I think you believe it." Lu Yuan nodded and said seriously, "Puchi." Looking at Lu Yuan's serious appearance, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but laugh and said, "In terms of the thickness of your skin, you're really unparalleled. If you didn't do bad things every night, I would really believe it." "You pervert," Chihiro Snow said and rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. "What do you mean doing bad things? You're my wife. How can it be called doing bad things? That's just normal communication between husband and wife." Lu Yuan defended himself. "Is there a need to call 2 or even 3 people at the same time? Is this a normal communication?" Qian Renshua said calmly, emphasizing the word normal. "I think it's quite normal." Lu Yuan touched the tip of his nose and said with a fleeting gaze, "F*CK you pervert." Chihiro Snow lightly hit Lu Yuan and couldn't help but laugh and scold. Lu Yuan giggled and didn't care. He tightly hugged Chihiro Snow. Kissing Chihiro Snow's cheek, Lu Yuan casually grabbed and suddenly grabbed the endless origin of heaven and earth. The colorful light slightly flickered, exuding an extremely rich vitality. Lu Yuan injected the origin of heaven and earth into Chihiro Snow's belly, nourishing the fetus in her belly. With the origin of heaven and earth nurturing, our child's future talent will be very high. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Higher than you? Chihiro Snow asked with a smile. That's impossible. It's still too early to surpass me. Lu Yuan shook his head and said, the bloodline of the five-clawed golden dragon king could be passed down, but the god-killing spear couldn't be passed down. Therefore, no matter how high his and Chihiro Snow's child's innate soul power was, without the god-killing spear, his talent would never be able to catch up to his. Narcissistic. I think our child's talent will be higher than yours. With your talent and my talent, how can our child not be as good as you? He will definitely surpass you. Chihiro Snow said angrily. That's true, but your talent is a bit lacking compared to mine. Do you know the difference in talent? Under normal circumstances, the child will only inherit the talent of the stronger person. Lu Yuan shook his head and said. When these words came out, Chihiro Snow's face suddenly became as black as charcoal. Lu Yuan. Chihiro Snow glared fiercely at Lu Yuan and gnashed his teeth. This guy actually dared to say that her talent was too lacking? Cough, cough. Don't be agitated, Cher. Impulse is the devil. I was just joking. Seeing Chihiro Snow's appearance, Lu Yuan's heart suddenly trembled. He immediately smiled apologetically. This carelessness caused trouble again. Joking, right? I also wanted to joke with you. Chihiro Snow smiled and then stretched out her snow-white neck. She lightly leaned forward and bit Lu Yuan's ear with her pearl-like white teeth. Ah! Suddenly, a miserable cry rang out and resounded throughout the entire island. The Snow Empress sat on a chair in a quiet room on the island at the center of the lake. She rested her chin on her jade-like hand, and there was a sorrowful look on her beautiful face. She looked a little tired. Her ice-blue eyes were slightly dim, and she seemed to be in low spirits. Her slightly furrowed brows, coupled with her cold and sorrowful temperament, brought a bit of tenderness and helplessness that made people feel pity for her. Dong dong. Just at this moment, there was a series of knocks on the door. Who is it? The Snow Emperor raised her head, and her expression was a bit surprised. The knocks on the door came suddenly. With her spiritual power, she actually didn't notice that someone was approaching. It could be seen that the person who came was stronger than her. However, her surprise disappeared in a flash. After all, although she was a god now, Chihiro Snow, Hulina and the rest were divine kings. If it was them who came, she indeed wouldn't notice. It's me, Lu Yuan. Outside the door, Lu Yuan's indifferent voice sounded. Ah! With that said, the Snow Emperor's expression suddenly changed. She tidied up her clothes at the fastest speed possible and restored everything in the room to its original state. Then, she quickly opened the door. Creak! The door was opened, and the Snow Emperor's beautiful face instantly appeared. Why are you here? The Snow Emperor suppressed the excitement in his heart and asked softly as he looked at Lu Yuan, who was dressed in white and had an ethereal aura. I'm here to see you. Lu Yuan smiled and stretched out his right hand to tuck the Snow Emperor's messy hair behind her ear. He asked, What were you doing inside just now? That big of a commotion? No, nothing. The Snow Emperor's beautiful face blushed slightly as she replied softly. If you didn't do anything, then why are you sweating so much? Lu Yuan said with a smile. Ah, did I? The Snow Empress was startled, and she hurriedly touched her forehead. It would be too embarrassing if Lu Yuan saw her drenched in sweat and in such a pathetic state. However, when the Snow Emperor's jade-like hand touched her forehead, she discovered that her forehead was ice-cold and dry. There wasn't a single drop of sweat. I'm lying to you. You also believe me. Can't you feel whether I'm sweating or not? Don't be so nervous. I don't eat people. Pinching the Snow Emperor's cheeks, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Chapter 1262. Having her cheeks pinched by Lu Yuan, the Snow Emperor's face instantly turned as red as an apple. She felt a little shy in her heart. She was already a little nervous, and now her heart was beating even faster. When facing other people, she would naturally be able to remain calm. However, when facing Lu Yuan, who she had already fallen in love with for a long time, how could she not be nervous? Lu Yuan's every action could trigger rapid changes in her mood at any time. Looking at the Snow Emperor's red little face, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. The originally elegant and cold Snow Emperor was truly gone forever. The current her was truly pure and adorable to the extreme. "Aren't you going to invite me in?" Lu Yuan asked with a smile. "Oh, quickly come in and take a seat." The Snow Emperor seemed to have awoken from a dream as she hurriedly called out to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan didn't stand on ceremony. He pulled the Snow Emperor's jade-like hand and walked into the house. The Snow Emperor's palm was white and smooth, soft and boneless. Furthermore, it was also ice-cold, just like a top-grade nephrite. It felt extremely good to the touch. Being held by Lu Yuan, the Snow Emperor's delicate body suddenly trembled. Her entire person was somewhat stunned, but she didn't struggle in the slightest. Instead, she allowed Lu Yuan to pull her into the house. Lu Yuan looked around and said with a faint smile, "This house was tidied up by you just now, right?" The Snow Emperor's charming face was slightly red as she nodded her head. What's wrong? Are you afraid of letting me see your sloppy side?" Lu Yuan moved closer and asked with a smile. I'm not sloppy." Looking at Lu Yuan's handsome face that was just inches away from her, the Snow Emperor's breathing became slightly hurried as she defended herself. Her house was at most a little messy, but it was far from sloppy. "Really?" Lu Yuan's double pupils turned and stared straight at the Snow Emperor's beautiful face. He stared until the Snow Emperor was extremely shy before he retracted his gaze and said softly, "Actually, even if you are sloppy, I don't mind." Hearing this, the Snow Emperor's heart skipped a beat. A strange feeling rose in her heart. She stared blankly at Lu Yuan, a faint light flickering in her icy blue eyes. Looking at the Snow Emperor's dazed expression, Lu Yuan felt a little amused. He couldn't help but raise his right hand and pinch her jade-like beautiful face. The Snow Emperor didn't move, allowing Lu Yuan to do whatever he wanted to her face. However, she felt a faint joy in her heart. In her impression, Lu Yuan had never been this close to her before. In the past, Lu Yuan would take the initiative to avoid her. She could feel that there was a very clear boundary between her and Lu Yuan. However, today, this boundary seemed to have disappeared. Moreover, it was Lu Yuan who broke it. He seemed to have suddenly become very close to her, as if he could touch her. Could it be Lu Yuan? You. The Snow Emperor's red lips opened slightly. Her icy blue eyes stared straight at Lu Yuan. She wanted to say something, but before she could finish, she was interrupted by Lu Yuan. "Don't ask. If you ask, the answer will be what you think." Lu Yuan said with a smile as he caressed the Snow Emperor's smooth and tender face. "What I think is what I think." The Snow Emperor softly murmured, her voice trembling. She was in a bit of disbelief. This surprise came too quickly. It was truly somewhat out of her expectations. "That's right, it's what you think. Haven't you been looking forward to it for a long time?" Lu Yuan softly smiled. Then, under the astonished gaze of the Snow Emperor, he pulled her into his embrace. "Sorry for making you wait for so long. I'm late." Lu Yuan gently kissed the Snow Emperor as he whispered into her ear. The Snow Emperor's delicate body trembled. She gently closed her eyes as 2 drops of sparkling tears fell from the corners of her eyes. She tightly hugged Lu Yuan, completely burying her body in Lu Yuan's embrace. "You're not late. I've finally waited for you," the Snow Emperor murmured. The next morning, a red sun gradually rose from the east. The bright and beautiful sunlight sprinkled down. Lu Yuan's eyes trembled slightly as he slowly opened his eyes. Slightly tilting his head, Lu Yuan looked at the Snow Emperor who was sleeping peacefully beside him. The corners of his lips curled up, revealing a beautiful smile. After he opened his heart and confirmed his feelings, he naturally got together with the Snow Empress. Everything was so natural and smooth. After all, he and the Snow Emperor had known each other for a long time. They already had a sufficient foundation of feelings. Extending his right hand, Lu Yuan gently stroked the Snow Emperor's snow-white hair. His eyes were filled with doting love. As if she was startled by Lu Yuan's actions, the Snow Emperor moaned and slowly opened her eyes, revealing a pair of beautiful ice-blue eyes. The current Snow Emperor no longer had the melancholy and tiredness from before. Her face carried a bright and beautiful smile. The moment she saw Lu Yuan, her ice-blue eyes were filled with a resplendent divine light. She looked extremely charming and in high spirits. "You're awake?" Lu Yuan hooked the Snow Emperor's delicate nose and asked gently. "And hug." The Snow Emperor pouted her small mouth and opened her arms. She looked at Lu Yuan eagerly. After the intimate interaction, the Snow Emperor completely dispelled her nervousness in front of Lu Yuan. Instead, she learned how to act coquettishly. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and directly pulled the Snow Emperor's fair, smooth, and curvaceous body into his embrace. Looking at the Snow Emperor's tender and rosy lips, Lu Yuan directly lowered his head and sealed them. After a series of begging, Lu Yuan finally released the Snow Emperor and looked at her with a gentle gaze. The Snow Emperor looked at Lu Yuan charmingly and drew circles on Lu Yuan's chest with her tender and white fingertips. She asked in a low voice, "I'm very curious. How did you suddenly become enlightened? Is it not good to become enlightened?" Lu Yuan pinched the Snow Emperor's cheeks and asked in a light voice. "It's good, of course it's good. If you didn't become enlightened, I don't know how long I would have to wait. I'm just curious. Why did you suddenly come?" To be honest, I wasn't mentally prepared at all yesterday. The Snow Emperor said in a light voice. "It's good that you weren't prepared. If you were prepared, then where would the surprise come from?" Lu Yuan stroked the Snow Emperor's soft and smooth hair and said, "Actually, I wanted to come a long time ago. It's just that I had a lot of things to do and couldn't leave." Secondly what? The Snow Emperor asked curiously. "Secondly, I was a bit hesitant. I couldn't make up my mind. After all, it was you who chased me before, and I purposely kept a distance from you. Now that you suddenly want me to confess, I'm a bit embarrassed?" The Snow Emperor asked in a light voice. Lu Yuan nodded his head and didn't say anything. "Ah, it's that damn face again." The Snow Emperor sneered and couldn't help but bite Lu Yuan's neck. Just for this so-called face, she waited for so long in vain. "Then why did you take the initiative?" After releasing his bite, the Snow Emperor asked in a light voice. "Speaking of this, you have to thank Cher. She persuaded me." Stroking the Snow Emperor's head, Lu Yuan said in a warm voice. Chapter 1263. Chihiro Snow. The Snow Empress was stunned, and her expression changed slightly. She nodded gently and said, "Then I really have to thank her properly. But there's one thing I didn't expect. She actually took the initiative to persuade you to come find me. What's there to be surprised about? Cher actually admires you a lot. After all, you're her only good friend. Cher is a bit arrogant and has very few friends, so she really cherishes this friendship. Snow Emperor, I hope you can still maintain such a good relationship with Cher in the future, okay?" Lu Yuan gently said as he caressed Snow Emperor's face. "Since you've already spoken, how can I not do as you say?" Snow Emperor pouted and said, "You're talking as if I'm very powerful." Lu Yuan said with some amusement, "You're not powerful. Other than BB Dawn and Chihiro Snow, your other women all listen to you." Snow Emperor lightly said, "Then you're wrong. Now, that ancestor is causing a ruckus. I'm also having a headache. I just barely managed to comfort her not long ago. It's really difficult." Lu Yuan lightly sighed and said, "Then you deserve it." Snow Emperor gloated. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and said, "Snow Emperor, your temper has greatly increased after you've taken the throne. Now you even dare to talk back to me? Ha ha! Since I already have you, what am I afraid of?" Snow Emperor stuck out her tongue and completely let go of herself. "Is that so? Then I think there's a need to let you have a good taste of the Lu family's rules." Lu Yuan naughtily smiled, directly pushed Snow Emperor onto the bed and began to touch her. Ah, spare me, I was wrong. Snow Emperor's charming face turned red, loudly begging for mercy. It's too late. Lu Yuan laughed mischievously and said, Lu Yuan, stop messing around. It's already morning. How about tonight? The Snow Emperor pleaded. Well, it would have been better if you didn't mention it. Now that you mention it, I'm even more interested. Lu Yuan laughed loudly. You're really a pervert. The Snow Emperor was stunned and couldn't help but grumble. I don't deny it. Lu Yuan snickered and kissed the Snow Emperor's red lips. Suddenly, the temperature rose and the beautiful scene played out again. When Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor woke up again, it was already late in the morning. The Snow Emperor hugged the blanket to cover her petite body as she looked at Lu Yuan with resentment. Don't look at me like that. It's embarrassing. Lu Yuan touched his nose and said lightly, Bah, you're embarrassed? You pervert. You only know how to take advantage of me. You don't know how to be tender to the fair sex. The Snow Emperor angrily accused Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan was really too strong. She was under a lot of pressure. At this moment, she finally understood why Chihiro Snow allowed Lu Yuan to find so many women. It was because she couldn't fight against Lu Yuan alone. You can't blame me. Who asked you to be so charming? I can't control myself. Lu Yuan sat in front of the Snow Emperor and looked at her with a smile. Don't say such nice things. The Snow Emperor snorted and said, No, this is not a nice thing. This is the truth. Lu Yuan softly said as he pulled the Snow Emperor into his embrace. Rays of white light entered the Snow Emperor's body and soothed her fatigue. Now that we are together, calling you Snow Emperor is not appropriate. How about I call you Little Snow? Lu Yuan gently said as he rubbed the Snow Emperor's little head. Don't. Let's call you Snow Emperor. Little Snow sounds like Chihiro Snow. The Snow Emperor shook her head and said, Okay, it's a bit troublesome to repeat names. First it was Nar and Nana, and now it's you and Cher. Lu Yuan shook his head and said, In the end, it's your fault for finding so many women. Otherwise, why would there be such a problem? The Snow Emperor lightly said, If I didn't find you, would I still have you? Little 8. Lu Yuan curled his lips and said. Hearing this, the Snow Emperor snorted and didn't say anything. If Lu Yuan really didn't find her, then she really wouldn't have anything to do with him. What's wrong? You have nothing to say? Lu Yuan looked at her with amusement, pinched her cheeks, and said faintly, The Snow Emperor once again snorted and rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. She didn't say anything. Seeing this, Lu Yuan lightly smiled and hugged the Snow Emperor's delicate body. He kissed her cheeks and hugged her tightly. In the pavilion in the middle of the lake, Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor sat side by side, admiring the beautiful scenery of the lake together. It had been 3 days since Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor declared their love. In these 3 days, Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor had been together, enjoying the peaceful and beautiful time of love. Snow Emperor, let me give you a present. Lu Yuan gently said as he held the Snow Emperor's jade-like hand. What present? The Snow Emperor lifted her little head that was leaning on Lu Yuan's shoulder and asked curiously. I'll give you the deity position of the ice god. Lu Yuan lightly smiled and opened his palm. An ice-blue deity seed instantly appeared, and an extremely cold aura rushed over. Deity position of the ice god? The Snow Emperor looked at Lu Yuan in astonishment. Yes, I specially prepared it for you. This is the most suitable deity position for you. After absorbing it, you will become a true God King level expert. You won't be any weaker than Na and the others. Lu Yuan lightly smiled and handed the deity seed of the ice god to the Snow Emperor. The Snow Emperor gently picked it up and blinked her beautiful eyes. She looked at Lu Yuan with ripples in her eyes, and there was a strange color in her eyes. For this deity position, you must have put in a lot of effort, right? The Snow Emperor gently asked. It's all right. Actually, I didn't put in much effort. I just saw that it was suitable for you, so I kept it for you. Lu Yuan lightly smiled. He didn't have any intention of taking credit for it. Every word of his seemed to be understated. However, the Snow Emperor naturally didn't think so. She gently raised her head and looked at Lu Yuan seriously for a while. Then, she directly blocked Lu Yuan's lips with her red lips. "It's your reward." Releasing Lu Yuan, the Snow Emperor said shyly, "This little reward isn't enough. I want more." Lu Yuan naughtily smiled and gently lowered his head. This time, he directly sealed the Snow Emperor's cherry lips. The Snow Emperor's lips were sweet and soft, and there was even a hint of coldness. It made people feel relaxed and happy. They couldn't help but become intoxicated. Lu Yuan kissed for more than 10 minutes before releasing the Snow Emperor. The Snow Emperor's breathing was slightly hurried. She couldn't help but roll her eyes at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan laughed and waved his right hand again. A beautiful, icy blue longsword appeared in his hand. It was the super divine weapon that Lu Yuan had reforged to match the deity position of the ice god, the ice divine sword. The Snow Emperor was most adept with swords. She had self-created the ultimate move of the unparalleled extreme chill, which was very powerful. In addition, she was an iceman and an ice spirit. She could control ultimate ice. This ice divine sword and her complemented each other very well. Chapter 1264. This is... The Snow Emperor curiously looked at the ice god sword in Lu Yuan's hand. Her ice blue eyes gently blinked, and her eyes were filled with fondness. This sword was clear and ice blue. It was simple, but it revealed a noble aura. It was in line with her aesthetic standards. This is the supra-divine tool that matches the divine position of the ice god. I personally refined it. I'll give it to you together. Lu Yuan softly said, and stuffed the ice god's sword into the hands of the Snow Emperor. The Snow Emperor lightly touched the ice god sword in her hand. Her eyes trembled slightly, and a touching smile appeared on her charming face. A super-divine tool that he personally refined. This fully represented Lu Yuan's concern for her. She was really satisfied in her heart. "I won't thank you." The Snow Emperor blinked her eyes and said with a hint of playfulness, "There's no need for thanks between us." Lu Yuan lightly smiled and said as he hooked the Snow Emperor's nose. "In." The Snow Emperor lightly nodded. She lightly rubbed her cheek on Lu Yuan's shoulder and said, "Then I'll start refining this divine seed of the ice god. Go, I'll protect you." Lu Yuan lightly smiled. He hugged the Snow Emperor and directly teleported into the Snow Emperor's room. The Snow Emperor gently looked at Lu Yuan. She climbed onto the bed and sat cross-legged. She directly absorbed the divine seed of the ice god into her forehead. Then, she slowly began to absorb the power of the divine seed of the ice god. Lu Yuan sat down on a chair and lightly tapped the table with his finger. With a wave of his hand, he drew out an endless amount of immortal spiritual energy to baptize the Snow Emperor. Immediately, the Snow Emperor's strength began to rise at an extremely fast speed. And during this process, time passed by minute. On the grassland, next to the pavilion in the middle of the lake, a group of peerless beauties gathered. They were basking in the sun while chatting and laughing. Lu Yuan held the Snow Emperor's hand as they slowly walked over. The corners of their clothes fluttered in the wind. Both of them exuded a thick, immortal aura. However, Lu Yuan was an immortal with an ethereal bearing, while the Snow Emperor was a cold and aloof immortal, untainted by the mortal world. However, when the two of them walked together, they were an absolute match. Whether it was in terms of looks or temperament, the two of them were a complete match. Now, the Snow Emperor had perfectly absorbed the power of the ice god's divine seed and had become a genuine God King level expert. In terms of strength, he was no weaker than Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others. The arrival of Lu Yuan and the Snow Emperor immediately attracted everyone's attention. All the women cast their gazes over. Being stared at by everyone, the Snow Emperor was a little shy. He lowered his head slightly and blushed slightly. However, Lu Yuan didn't feel anything at all. He held the Snow Emperor's hand and walked over. Yo, what day is it today? Why are all of you here? Lu Yuan's double pupils swept over them and chuckled softly. Today is the day we new sisters join us. How can we not gather together? Bibidong glanced at Lu Yuan and smiled. That's right, that's right. Teacher is right. Today is the day we officially meet the new sisters. See, we're all waiting here. Hulina giggled. Like hell I'll believe you. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes at the two women and smiled faintly. He pulled the Snow Emperor and walked to the center of the women. I won't beat around the bush. All of you have known each other for a long time. I only have one thing to say. From today onwards, the Snow Empress is a member of our big family. In the future, I hope that there will be less fighting and scheming between us. We can always live in harmony like we are now. Understand? Lu Yuan asked softly. Understood. All the women replied in unison. Dong Air, we'll have to trouble you with this. As the big sister, you have to set a good example. Lu Yuan looked at Bibi Dong and chuckled softly. Don't worry. Leave it to me. Bibi Dong nodded gently before smiling gently at the Snow Empress. He said, Snow Empress, I welcome you on behalf of everyone. You don't have to be embarrassed, and you don't have to be reserved. We're all family, so just relax. And, okay. The Snow Emperor nodded vigorously. With Bibidon's words, the nervousness and shyness in her heart lessened a lot. Seeing this scene, Lu Yuan revealed a trace of a satisfied smile. He pulled the Snow Emperor to the side and casually pointed. The earth elements formed two brand new stone benches. The two of them sat down together. As soon as they sat down, Lu Yuan looked at Bibi Dong and asked, Dong Air, how's the preparation for the god investiture ceremony? It's almost ready. It can be held in a few days. Bibi Dong said softly. That's good. After ascending the throne to become the Celestial Emperor, I still need a group of trusted aides and subordinates. Moreover, these people have been with us for so long and have made a lot of contributions and hard work. Now that there's a shortage of gods in the divine world, these god positions can be arranged for them. Zhu Qing, go and inform Uncle Yin and Senior Dogu. Tell them to come to the Martial Spirit Palace in 5 days to participate in the god investiture ceremony. Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Qing. I understand. Zhu Qing nodded and replied softly. And, while you're at it, call your parents and sister over. They won't have a share of the good god positions, but they can still be given a chance to live forever. No matter what, they're your family. Lu Yuan said faintly. Okay. Hearing this, Zhu Qing's heart skipped a beat. Her face revealed a touched expression. She deeply felt Lu Yuan's concern for her. Rong, you know what to do with the 7 treasures glazed sect, right? Lu Yuan glanced at Ning Rong and asked with a smile. Hee, I understand. I'll definitely call a few more people over. Ning Rong laughed. Call a few more? In your dreams. Do you think god positions are cabbages? You can have as many as you want. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes at Ning Rong and said unhappily, just Uncle Ning and Senior Swordbone. I can't have any more than one more. Can't you make an exception? Obuchi, I still have a few older brothers. Ning Rong said bitterly. They're not your biological brothers. What's there to talk about if they have the same father but different mothers? I don't care if they die. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes and said faintly. All right then. Ning Rong pouted and said disappointedly. Lu Yuan looked at Ning Rong in amusement. This drama queen is so dramatic. He actually understood that Ning Rong was just joking. She only cared about the 2 Douluo, Ning Fengji and Swordbone, in the 7 treasures glazed sect. As for her brothers, even Ning Rong herself didn't care about them. Nana, call Evil Moon, Lu Yuan said to Hulina. Understood. Hulina revealed a happy smile and said softly, Cher, call your grandfather over too. This old man has a bad temper. If I don't call him, I'm afraid he won't come. Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow and said, Chapter 1265. I got it, Chihiro Snow said softly as he nodded. Ever since Sendoryu was revived, He seemed to have become a different person. He hid in the angel temple all day and didn't come out. If he didn't get someone to call him, he probably wouldn't be there even if the god sealing ceremony started. There's also Grandpa Golden Crocodile, Lu Yuan said plainly. Okay, I'll inform them too, Chihiro Snow said gently. Lu Yuan nodded with satisfaction. His gaze shifted slightly before stopping on the Snow Emperor. The Ice Empress hasn't returned after so long in the extreme north. I'll have to trouble you to call her. Although this little scorpion isn't likable, I'll leave a godly seat for her on your account. Lu Yuan said casually. The Snow Emperor smiled and said, Then I'll thank you on behalf of Bing. She knew that Lu Yuan and the Ice Empress were on good terms. However, it was interesting that both of them looked like they didn't like each other. There's no need to thank me. It's just a small matter. Lu Yuan waved his hand to show that he didn't mind. The so-called godly seat was just a matter of him moving his mouth. He was the supreme celestial emperor, and he controlled all the rules. He was the true ruler of heaven. His words were law. Becoming a godly seat was just a matter of thought for him. Only the godly seat above the godly seat would require him to move a little. However, this was also for better integration and absorption. Actually, even a godly seat could be made a godly seat with a single word. However, this would require too much time for the person to integrate and comprehend. He could do this for others, but he would obviously choose a better method for his wife. From the godly seat to the super divine tool, everything would be handled by him. This was the difference between an insider and an outsider. Apart from the people I've mentioned, there's also Xiao Xiaolon, and the others. Nah, don't say that I'm biased. I'll confer a godly position to Di Tian, Bai Ji, Bear Lord, and the others. Take it as compensation. Lu Yuan looked at Gu Yuna and said in a gentle voice. Although he had appeased Gu Yuna back then, Gu Yuna still had some residual emotions in her heart. This time, he would give Gu Yuna some compensation during the god or daemon ceremony. After all, he was actually feeling a little guilty. For the sake of the big picture, his methods were a little too extreme. Although he had no choice, he still made Gu Yuna uncomfortable, and it was also the first time that Gu Yuna had a conflict with him. Gu Yuna was sincere to him and even had a child for him, so he naturally couldn't be ungrateful. He was a man who was tough on the outside but gentle on the inside. He could be very cruel to others, but he loved his woman from the bottom of his heart. Even if he was overly emotional for a moment, he would still humble himself and apologize after calming down. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Gu Yuna couldn't help but smile, and her eyes lit up. Although she was very unhappy that Lu Yuan had removed her position as the ruler and created the 5 elemental dragon tribe, Lu Yuan's appeasement and apology made her feel much better. After all, she knew that Lu Yuan was trying his best to maintain the equality between the two tribes. As the heavenly emperor, he had to be impartial, so he naturally couldn't be the same as her. Thinking about it carefully, her anger back then was mostly because she hadn't changed her mindset. Her mindset was still stuck at the time when Lu Yuan was fighting with her, and she instinctively counted Lu Yuan as a member of the dragon tribe. So when she saw Lu Yuan remove her position as the ruler and create a new dragon tribe, she was so angry. She felt that Lu Yuan was too inconsiderate. However, she ignored the change in Lu Yuan's identity. Before the war against the divine realm, Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna were absolutely on the same side. They were both fighting against the divine realm, but after the divine realm was defeated and Lu Yuan became the heavenly emperor, their standpoints suddenly changed. At this time, Lu Yuan was destined to be unable to stand on the side of the dragon tribe like Gu Yuna. Lu Yuan's approach might be a little extreme, but in fact there was no problem. He restricted the old dragon tribe, but he didn't restrict the soul beasts. On the contrary, the soul beast strength became stronger, and they were comparable to the human gods. After thinking about this, Gu Yuna was no longer angry. After all, Lu Yuan was her husband. She loved Lu Yuan very much, and she was pregnant with Lu Yuan's child. To be fair, if she had to choose between Lu Yuan and the old dragon tribe, the result was already destined. She could only choose Lu Yuan. The old dragon clan could not accompany her for the rest of her life, and only gave her responsibility. Lu Yuan, on the other hand, was her partner for the rest of her life and had also given her meticulous care and love. This choice might be a little painful, but it was not difficult. Moreover, Lu Yuan's care now made the last trace of resentment in her heart disappear. This man was not without a heart. His heart was still as soft as ever. It's just so. Although she was quite happy, Gu Yuna's answer was slightly arrogant. Now, she had changed from her previous obedient self, and she was more capricious and arrogant. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile slightly. His little wife was getting cuter and cuter. All right, since Na doesn't have any objections, then this matter is basically settled. The only one left is my father. I'll personally go and pick him up. After not seeing him for so many years, I really do miss him. Are any of you interested in coming with me to take a look? Lu Yuan looked around at the girls and asked with a chuckle. This? BB Don and the other girls looked at each other, and the atmosphere was a little stiff for a while. Chihiro Snow, Hulina, and the others had all seen the fellows, but Gu Yuna, Pasizi, and the Snow Emperor had never seen him before. When they heard that they were going to meet his parents, they were naturally nervous. Even though BB Don and Lu Yuan were the first to get married, and the fellows were also present, but they had never officially met him in close proximity. After all, his teacher became his wife, and BB Don was actually very nervous and embarrassed, so they didn't meet him. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, Lu Yuan couldn't help but squint his eyes and said lightly, "What? No one wants to go with me. Dong why aren't you talking? Should I go?" BB Don blinked her big pink eyes and whispered, "What do you think? My first wife." Lu Yuan said with a smile that was not a smile, "Okay, I'll go." BB Don nodded helplessly. Who told her to be the first wife? If she didn't go, who would? If it was awkward, then so be it. When she was with this guy, she was destined to have this day, and she was also mentally prepared. That's more like it. Pasizi, Snow Emperor, you two also come with me. You haven't seen my father before, so this time you can meet him. As for Nar, you can stay. You're pregnant, so be careful. It won't be too late to see my father again when he comes here," Lu Yuan said warmly. Chapter 1266. All right. Upon hearing Lu Yuan's words, Pasizi, Snow Emperor, and the others all nodded in agreement. After all, an ugly daughter-in-law would eventually have to meet her parents-in-law. It was only a matter of time before they met the fellows. There was simply no way to avoid it. All right, then it's settled. Finish the Divine Lord coronation ceremony as quickly as possible. That way, there won't be any major matters to attend to. When the time comes, I'll accompany you all every day and watch as my sons are born. Lu Yuan's gaze drifted toward Gu Yuna and Chihiro Snow's bellies, and a hint of affection flashed through his eyes. These were his children, the continuation of his life. He was exceptionally fond of them. Of course, in addition to Cher and Na, there's also all of you. I want all of you to bear my children. Lu Yuan looked around and chuckled. Hearing this, all of the women blushed, but their faces were all filled with anticipation. Chihiro Snow and Gu Yuna were both pregnant, and they also wanted to bear Lu Yuan's children like Chihiro Snow and Gu Yuna. Especially you, Dong you have to do your best. Lu Yuan looked toward BB Don with a gentle smile. Me? BB Don was taken aback upon hearing this. Then a wry smile appeared on his face, and he said, I also want to, but this kind of thing depends on fate. She naturally also wanted to bear Lu Yuan's children. As the main wife, she naturally didn't want to fall behind others. However, she also understood that this kind of thing really depended on fate and couldn't be forced. No, as long as we communicate more, there will naturally be more opportunities. Lu Yuan revealed a strange smile as he looked at BB Don. How well did BB Don understand Lu Yuan? Hearing his words, he immediately understood everything. Obu Chi, I beg you to be a human. The sun is shining. This is really broad daylight. BB Don rolled his eyes and snappily said, do you think I care? Lu Yuan chuckled, and moved to the front of BB Don and picked him up. Dong Air, I miss you. Lu Yuan didn't hide his feelings. Damn it, don't you know how to restrain yourself? BB Don couldn't help but pat Lu Yuan on the back. Her pretty face was flushed red. In front of so many people, she was also very embarrassed. It doesn't matter. There's no one else here. We're all on the same side. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Hearing this, BB Dong rolled his eyes and glared at Lu Yuan in annoyance. Lu Yuan didn't mind. He shrugged and disappeared with the BB Don in his arms. Heavenly Star Academy, the current #1 academy on the continent. Ever since they had received the support of the Dragon King Palace, the strength of the Heavenly Star Academy had skyrocketed, especially after Lu Yuan had ascended to the position of Saint Emperor. The strength of the academy that was directly under Lu Yuan had skyrocketed, successfully achieving a leap in strength. Until now, the standard of Heavenly Star Academy students had even surpassed the Martial Soul Palace Academy, which was the original Martial Soul Palace Academy. This was a shocking result, but it was quite reasonable when one thought about it carefully. First of all, when Lu Yuan represented Heavenly Star Academy to defeat the Martial Soul Palace Academy, Heavenly Star Academy's reputation had spread extremely quickly, and many outstanding students came in droves. Second, with the strong support of the Dragon King Palace, the Dragon King Palace's pills, soul tools, and other cultivation resources were all given to Heavenly Star Academy, causing the strength of the Academy's students to grow extremely quickly. Even the Martial Soul Palace Academy did not have such resources. Third, and the most important point, was that the previous Holy Son, the Saint Emperor, and the current Heavenly Emperor Lu Yuan did not pay too much attention to the Martial Soul Palace Academy, and did not even inspect it once. On the other hand, the Heavenly Star Academy was founded by Lu Yuan, and he had spent a lot of effort on it, so he often paid attention to it. As Lu Yuan's power and reputation grew stronger day by day, the Heavenly Star Academy naturally benefited from it. Coupled with Heavenly Star Academy's strong teaching staff and effective management system, the rise of Heavenly Star Academy was almost inevitable. At this moment, outside Heavenly Star Academy, there were 4 figures walking towards Heavenly Star Academy. Heavenly Star Academy, I haven't been here for a few years. Looking at the flamboyant calligraphy of Heavenly Star Academy on the signboard outside the door, Lu Yuan's face showed a trace of reminiscence. These 4 words were written by him personally. At that time, he was only 13 years old, and now, 10 years had passed in the blink of an eye. Time really flew by. Why? Are you thinking of the past and feeling emotional? BB Don asked with a smile. That's right. When I first founded the Heavenly Star Academy, I was still young and inexperienced. I was merely a soul ancestor. Even though I was extremely talented, I could only defeat a high-level soul sage. But now, I've become a celestial emperor in just a little over 10 years. The world is truly unpredictable. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Indeed, the affairs of the world are unpredictable. In just a little over 10 years, you have become like this. You were so obedient and lovable back then, unlike now. BB Dong curled his lips and said in a faint voice, What's wrong with me now? Am I not lovable? You said yesterday that you loved me to death. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and said softly, Aya, don't say any more. BB Don hurriedly said. When she thought of what she said to Lu Yuan yesterday, she felt a little embarrassed, and her beautiful face was covered with a faint blush. Seeing Bibidon's shy appearance, Lu Yuan was happy and couldn't help but grin. The Snow Emperor and Pasizi beside him also couldn't help but laugh. They were also witnesses. Okay, let's not talk about it. I'm going to find the old man. Let's go. Lu Yuan laughed for a while, and his expression returned to normal. He rubbed Bibidon's head and said softly. BB Don nodded, and the blush on her face slowly faded. She followed Lu Yuan directly into Heavenly Star Academy. The old man is here. Follow me. Lu Yuan casually glanced around and found the position of the fellows. With his hands behind his back, he slowly walked over. The fellows was naturally in the inner courtyard, but the inner courtyard had Flinder and Lu Erlong in charge of the specific matters. He, as the dean, was quite leisurely. When Lu Yuan, Bibi Dan, and the other two girls found the fellows, he was drinking tea and leisurely enjoying the scenery. Lu Yuan and the others naturally didn't hide their figures, so when they appeared, they were discovered by the fellows. "Yo, you brat, why did you suddenly come back? Why didn't these guys inform me?" Seeing Lu Yuan, the somewhat lazy appearance of the fellows suddenly disappeared. He directly stood up, and his face was filled with a pleasantly surprised expression. "I didn't want them to find out, so they naturally couldn't find out. How is it, old man, I suddenly came back? Are you very surprised?" Lu Yuan's double pupils flashed, and he asked with a smile. Chapter 1267. Surprise my ass. "You brat, you left for so long and didn't even come back to see me. Do you still have this old man in your heart? I just want to beat you up, you unfilial son. What surprise?" The fellows curled his lips and said indifferently, "Old man, you're wrong. It's not that I don't want to come back, but your son is busy and really doesn't have time." Lu Yuan shook his head and said, "Hee, do you think this old man will believe you? You directly through the Dragon King Hall to Ming Feng and the poisoned Douluo. You through the Heavenly Star Academy to this old man and Vice Dean Flinder. Now that you're the Holy Emperor of the Martial Spirit Hall, I'm afraid that you're going to be busy. I think you're too happy to think about home." The fellows glared at Lu Yuan with a trace of disdain in his eyes. "This brat likes to create forces, but he doesn't care about anything. He even said that he's busy. Does he really think this old man is a fool? As the saying goes, no one knows a son better than his father." The fellows understood Lu Yuan's temperament quite well. Hearing the fellows' words, Lu Yuan touched his nose embarrassedly. The fellows could be said to be right, and he had no room to quibble. Bibi Dan, the Snow Emperor, and the Pasizi covered their mouths and snickered. The fellows was the first person who could make Lu Yuan speechless. Sure enough, Lu Yuan still needs his father to discipline him personally. The others really can't do anything to him. Especially Lu Yuan's strength was getting stronger and stronger. It was really hard to find someone who could control him. Even Bibi Dan had to go along with Lu Yuan when he was unhappy. In the end, Bibi Dan was just Lu Yuan's wife. It was impossible to completely control Lu Yuan. But in front of the fellows, Lu Yuan could only listen obediently. No matter how strong Lu Yuan was or how high his status was, the fellows was still his father. This could never be changed. "Who are these two girls?" The fellows looked at Bibi Dan, and the other two girls were snickering. There was a trace of curiosity in his eyes. He recognized Bibi Dan. After all, he had seen Lu Yuan's wedding from afar. Naturally, he knew what Bibi Dan looked like, but he really didn't recognize the Snow Emperor and the Pasizi at all. However, no matter if it was the Snow Emperor or the Pasizi, they were undoubtedly the top beauties in the world. Especially the Snow Emperor, who sees the spirit of heaven and earth and gathered the mysteries of creation. Her entire appearance was flawless, and her temperament was cold. Her beauty was soul-stirring. She was truly a perfect goddess. The fellows had never seen such a beauty before. The only one who could compare in terms of appearance was his daughter-in-law, Cher. She could be considered to be comparable to the Snow Emperor. However, when he thought of his daughter-in-law, the fellows immediately came back to his senses. He looked at the Snow Emperor, the Pasizi, and then looked at Bibi Dan. He felt that the three of them had a similar characteristic. The fellow's eyes trembled. He asked, "Stinking brat, these two girls can't be my daughter-in-law, right?" The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. The way the fellows called them girls really made his scalp tingle. Although they were very young, both the Pasizi and the Snow Emperor were much older than the fellows. It was a little strange to hear them call them girls. However, although it was strange, Lu Yuan still nodded his head calmly. He hugged the two girls' slender waists and pulled them into his embrace. He smiled and said, "How is it, old man? Your son's taste is not bad, right? Your taste is indeed not bad. It must have been hard for you to have the ability to find two such beautiful wives." The fellows nodded his head affirmatively. Lu Yuan's taste was not bad. Every single one of his wives was peerless. In the past, he had advised Lu Yuan to be more careful and not find random girlfriends. However, he would not say such things now. Lu Yuan's status had changed. As the Sane Emperor, having 3 wives and 4 concubines was normal. There was no need for him to worry. Okay, don't stand outside. Come in and sit. The fellows reacted and hurriedly called Lu Yuan and the others into the room. Lu Yuan and the others entered the room and sat down at the table. Bibi Dan took the initiative to pick up the teapot on the table and poured a cup of tea for each of them. Her actions were graceful and generous, exuding a gentle and virtuous temperament. Dong Er, your first wife. You should know, but this should be your first official meeting. Holding Bibidan's hand, Lu Yuan said to the fellows. Of course I know. The fellows meaningfully glanced at Bibidan, and then he turned his gaze to Lu Yuan and meaningfully said, now that I think about it, a brat like you really dares to do anything. You even dare to marry your own teacher and make such a big deal out of it that the entire continent knows. Brat, you're quite bold. I've always been very bold, since Dong Er and I are in love with each other. So what if we're together? Don't you think that Dong Er is very good and virtuous? Lu Yuan gripped Bibidan's hand and indifferently asked. She's truly very good. She's your virtuous wife. Brat, there's no need to be so agitated to explain things to this old man. This old man is not an unreasonable person. As for my first daughter-in-law, there's no need for you to worry. This old man is just saying this and has no objections to you. As long as you treat this brat well, this old man doesn't care about anything else. The fellows waved his hand and casually said. He was very open-minded. The imperial family was different from ordinary families. As long as it wasn't related by blood, it wasn't a big deal to the imperial family. Furthermore, since ancient times, although there weren't many teacher-student relationships, there were still quite a few. Ordinary people might find it somewhat unacceptable, but for soul masters, teacher-student relationships were nothing. He was just a little curious. After all, he was very clear about the identity of his first daughter-in-law. She was the legendary peerless pope of the martial soul palace. She was actually subdued by his son. This brat's ability was really extraordinary. In all fairness, Lu Yuan's current achievements really made him, as a father, feel very gratified. The fellow's words dispelled the worry and apprehension in Bibidan's heart. She had always been a little worried that the fellows would mind her. After all, she didn't care about other people, but the fellows was Lu Yuan's only elder. Bibidan still cared about his opinion. Fortunately, the fellows didn't have any prejudice against her. This made her feel a lot more at ease. Holding Lu Yuan's hand and looking at Lu Yuan, Bibidan couldn't help but reveal a good-looking smile on her face. That's right, brat. You haven't introduced these 2 girls to this old man yet. The fellows looked at the Snow Emperor and Pasizi and said softly, I'm just doing it one by one. Lu Yuan smiled and introduced the Snow Emperor and Pasizi to the fellows. Chapter 1268. This is the Pasizi, and this is the Snow Emperor. They're both my wives, and we are already married. Lu Yuan said with a smile. They're all good children. You're so lucky, brat. The fellow smiled and looked at the Pasizi and the Snow Emperor. Then, his gaze shifted to Lu Yuan, and he said with some reprimand, But why didn't you inform this old man that you were getting married? This old man can't help you with other things, but he is more than enough to be a witness. The fellows blew his beard and glared, and there was a faint look of dissatisfaction on his face. Lu Yuan smiled bitterly and said, The Pasizi and the Snow Emperor situation is a bit special. We directly used heaven and earth as witnesses. Due to the urgency of the matter, we didn't inform you. So, you didn't even have a wedding? The fellows asked. Oh no. Lu Yuan touched his nose and said with some embarrassment. Bibi Dan and the other girls had all had a wedding, but Guyuna, the Snow Emperor, and the Pasizi had indeed not had a wedding. You stinking brat. You're always doing things that don't make sense. Marriage is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for these girls. You can't be careless. As their husband, you have to give them what they deserve. The fellows said earnestly, I understand. I will make up for this wedding. Lu Yuan nodded and said with a serious face. He had never paid attention to this matter, but now that the fellows reminded him, he took it to heart. Gu Yuna, the Snow Emperor, and the others were wholeheartedly following him. A decent wedding was very necessary. They were all his women. Gu Yuna, the Snow Emperor, and the others couldn't be worse than the others. They had to have something that should be given. That's more like it. When are you going to do it? The fellows asked. One day before the divine investiture ceremony. After the wedding, the divine investiture ceremony will be held. Lu Yuan said warmly. God ordainment ceremony? What is this? The fellows frowned slightly and asked in confusion. He only knew that Lu Yuan was the Saint Emperor, but he didn't know that Lu Yuan had become the Heaven Emperor. Lu Yuan's identity as the Heaven Emperor hadn't been made public. Even in the Dragon King Palace, very few people knew that Lu Yuan was the Heaven Emperor. Therefore, when he heard about the God investiture ceremony, he was still somewhat puzzled. It wasn't just the fellows. None of the major powers on the continent knew that Lu Yuan had already become a celestial emperor. This was also why Lu Yuan wanted Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong to personally go back and inform them. The God ordainment ceremony is a ceremony to confer titles to gods. I've already become the celestial emperor of the god world, so this time I'm going to confer titles to my own forces. Of course, it's also a kind of reward. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and told the fellows the whole story. You're saying that not only are you the Saint Emperor of the Martial Soul Empire, but you've also conquered the god world and become the Heaven Emperor of the god world? The fellows looked straight at Lu Yuan, his eyes full of shock. Although he always knew that his son was very powerful, he didn't expect him to be powerful to such an extent. Yes, old man. Do you still remember the time when the Douluo continent was almost destroyed? That was the aftermath of the battle between me and the 5 divine kings of the god world. Lu Yuan said with a smile. The fellows sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard this. He stared blankly at Lu Yuan and said, So that supreme, boundless, and domineering figure was you? Of course. Otherwise, who else would have such a majestic body? Lu Yuan smiled proudly. The corners of Bibi Don, Pasizi, and the others' mouths twitched when they heard this. This guy's skin is really thick. He really doesn't know what shame is. The fellows also grinned and looked at Lu Yuan strangely. Stinking brat. No matter how strong you become, you're still as narcissistic as when you were young. I still remember the scene when you looked in the mirror and praised yourself for being handsome. The fellows sighed softly. Bibi Don and the other 2 covered their mouths and snickered. They didn't expect Lu Yuan to have such a dark history. Lu Yuan was also speechless. He didn't expect the fellows to still remember something that happened almost 20 years ago. Since you're going to hold the God investiture ceremony, then you came back this time to pick up this old man, right? With a smile, the fellows got back on track. Lu Yuan was a filial person. He knew this very well. So he naturally understood the purpose of Lu Yuan's return. That's right. This time, we're going to be apatheicized, so we naturally can't leave you out. We're both immortals, so we naturally have to bring you along. A family should always be neat and tidy. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Brat, you still have some conscience. The fellow smiled and said softly, Actually, this old man doesn't really care about immortality. However, having the opportunity to not die is also a good thing. This way, I can watch you give birth to children and have children. This old man will also have the opportunity to hug my obedient grandson. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's heart stirred. He said with a smile, Then your wish will be fulfilled very soon. Let me tell you something happy. Cher and Na are already pregnant. Oh, really? The fellows asked with surprise. Of course it's true. How can this be false? Lu Yuan said with a smile. Good, good. The fellows loudly sighed twice. His old face was full of smiles. Knowing that he would soon be able to hug his obedient grandson, the fellows' heart was filled with joy. For people like him, The thing they wanted the most was to have children and grandchildren. Although Lu Yuan was picked up by him, in his heart, he was no different from his own child. Naturally, he also completely treated Lu Yuan's child as his own grandson. This joy was completely from the bottom of his heart. It was not fake in the slightest. After being happy for a while, the fellows patted Lu Yuan's shoulder and said, "Having 2 children is indeed very good, but it's not enough. You have to have a few more. Do you understand? You have so many wives. You have to have at least 7 or 8 children. Otherwise, this old man will look down on you." Seeing the fellows' look of eagerness, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "I naturally have no problem. It just depends on whether Dong Er and the others are willing to cooperate or not." Bibi Don and the other 2 girls' pretty faces turned slightly red at the same time. They were a little embarrassed to be urged in front of the fellows. However, this question couldn't be avoided. After all, they still needed a response. Bibi Don calmed down and gathered her courage. She glared at Lu Yuan and said, "As long as you don't exaggerate, of course we have no problem." "Very good. I like your confident look. Tonight, you will serve me in bed. Having children is a big deal. Tonight, we'll have a good chat." Lu Yuan's lips curved slightly and said with a chuckle, Chapter 1269. Bring it on. Who's afraid of who? Bibi Don replied with a slightly red face. Even if they lost, they couldn't lose. Putting aside who was stronger for the time being, they definitely couldn't lose in terms of momentum. "You have guts. I'm looking forward to it." Lu Yuan's lips curled up slightly, revealing a gentle smile. Ahem. Seeing that the topic was slowly diverting, the fellows couldn't help but gently cough and say, "You guys should talk about these private matters in private." "Brat, I think it's getting late. It's almost noon. I'll take you guys to have a meal. While we're at it, I'll also call Vice President Flanders and Vice President Lou Erlong. Everyone can gather together." "Is that so? All right. I haven't seen them in a long time." Lu Yuan smiled and said softly, "All right, then let's go." The fellows stood up and led the way. Lu Yuan's first meal back was in the cafeteria. This was definitely a new experience for him. Martial Spirit Palace. In the pavilion in the middle of the lake, the figures of Lu Yuan and Bibi Don appeared. The 2 snuggled up to each other, quietly admiring the scenery by the lake. Picking up the fellows actually didn't take long. After eating lunch and strolling around, he brought the fellows back to the Martial Spirit Palace in the afternoon. The old man is very happy today. Recalling the happy expression on the fellows' face when they saw Gu Yuna and Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan couldn't help but chuckle softly. The older generation pays attention to the inheritance. He sees you as his son. Now that you have a descendant, he's naturally overjoyed. Bibi Dong laid in Lu Yuan's arms, rolling her beautiful eyes as she said with a smile, "Yes, I can see that the old man really likes children." Lu Yuan sighed softly, then kissed Bibidon's cheek and said softly, "Dong Er, let's have a daughter too." "Do you like daughters?" Bibi Don asked with a smile. "I like both sons and daughters, but Nar and Cher are both pregnant with boys. I want a daughter." Lu Yuan said softly. How do you know that they're pregnant with a boy?" Bibi Don asked in surprise. "Don't forget, I'm the Celestial Emperor, the one who controls the laws of the universe. In this universe, as long as I want to know something, I can know it in an instant. It's just that I don't usually use this ability. In fact, from the moment Nar and the others became pregnant, I already knew that they were pregnant with boys." Lu Yuan shrugged and said, "Another type of omniscient and omnipotent?" Bibi Don murmured softly. Lu Yuan was a god of laws. In the universe that he controlled, he could be considered omniscient and omnipotent. But soon, Bibi Don shook his head and said, "Oh Bu Chi, in fact, you shouldn't use this ability. If you know everything, there won't be any fun in life in the future." "Of course I know, but I really can't suppress the curiosity in my heart." Lu Yuan rubbed his nose and said resentfully. Hearing this, Bibi Don rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan and said, "But even if we want to have a girl, it has to depend on fate. You can't force it. Having a boy or a girl was completely dependent on luck. If you wanted to have a girl, you would definitely have a girl. Do you want me to control it? Lu Yuan said tentatively, then paid attention to Bibidon's reaction. With his ability, it wasn't difficult to do this, but he was worried about Bibidon. You dare. Sure enough, when Lu Yuan said this, Bibidon immediately exploded. I know that you're almost omnipotent, but I will never allow you to play tricks in this regard. Do you understand? In her opinion, a child was the crystallization of love that appeared when their feelings reached the depths of their relationship. It was a miracle given by the heavens and not controlled by Lu Yuan himself that would lose its original meaning, and there would be a cold feeling in it. I understand. I won't do that. Don't be angry. Lu Yuan hurriedly apologized and patted Bibidon's back gently. Sure enough, he knew that Bibidon would have such a reaction. Bibidon snorted and bit Lu Yuan's neck fiercely. Lu Yuan smiled bitterly and gently stroked Bibidon's long purple hair. Dong air, Lu Yuan called softly. What? Bibidon raised his small head and glared at Lu Yuan, with a trace of residual anger in his eyes. Today, I see that Dean Lu Erlong seems to be very happy. Lu Yuan's eyes flickered as he said softly, She has good taste. She followed a good man. Bibidon said lightly. Today's meeting between her and Lu Erlong was exceptionally harmonious, and there wasn't the slightest bit of friction. She could see that Lu Erlong was in a very good mood. Her whole body was glowing, and her spirit was very good. It could be said that Flinder was very meticulous with her. Indeed, Dean Flinder is a good match for Dean Lu Erlong. Lu Yuan sighed softly, and there was a hint of reminiscence in his expression. Speaking of this matter, it was all thanks to Ning Rongrong. Back then, she had laid a huge trap, and it had resulted in 2 fated marriages. Flinder is indeed much better than Yu Xiaojiang, Bibidon said softly, but the determination in his tone made Lu Yuan smile. Yu Xiaojiang no longer exists in this world. Lu Yuan shook his head slightly. Yu Xiaojiang had long become history. It's actually good that he's gone. Without him, many people can live better lives. Bibidon said softly. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and said, What? You seem to have seen through him very clearly now. Bibidon rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan and said, Everyone has a time when they are ignorant. I was young and didn't know anything. Now that I think about it, I was too well protected when I was young, and I didn't know much. You were indeed well protected. You were the exclusive property of that bastard Chihiro disease since you were young. He was waiting for you to grow up. Fortunately, I came in time. Lu Yuan's voice carried a bit of joy. The matter at that time could be said to be a matter of life and death. Don't mention that bastard. Dying at the hands of Tang, how was too easy for him. If it wasn't for little Snow, I really wanted you to resurrect him, and then I would kill him again with my own hands. Bibidon said with a murderous look. Amazing, my dong air. Lu Yuan was slightly stunned, and then he stroked Bibidon's cheek and said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Resurrecting him and killing him again, only she could think of such a thing. That's nothing. TSK. Bibidon curled her lips and said, that was the way to deal with that kind of crazy bastard. Back then, she was kind and didn't kill him. But now, she was absolutely decisive. If Chihiro disease appeared in front of her, she would definitely kill him without hesitation. Chapter 1270. Hee, that's true. To be honest, I wanted to kill him too, but I had no choice at that time. I've wronged you. Lu Yuan said with a smile as he rubbed Bibidon's head. I know, I understand you, and I don't mean to blame you. After all, you also have to consider Cher's feelings. In fact, it doesn't matter whether I kill Chihiro disease or not. What matters is that we're together. The one I hate more is Rakshasa. If it weren't for her, I would always remember our beautiful memories. After you left, I actually wanted to take you as a disciple and train you from a young age. In the end, I did train you from a young age, but I don't remember you. Instead, I'll let share capture your heart first. What a mistake. Why think of this? I really want to kill Rakshasa God again. BB Don said with some gnashing teeth. Hearing this, Lu Yuan was suddenly stunned. I didn't expect you to be like this, Dong'er. Lu Yuan stared straight at BB Don with a strange look in his eyes. Why? Do you have a problem with it? Or do you not like me like this? BB Don asked faintly. No, I don't have a problem with it. I like you like this very much. In fact, no matter what you are like, I like it, Lu Yuan said with a smile. You only know how to say nice things. BB Don curled his lips, but his eyebrows were full of joy. Lu Yuan had long been accustomed to Bibidon's duplicity. He looked at Bibidon's delicate red lips that were trembling slightly. He couldn't help but feel moved and kissed them directly. Wait, BB Don covered Lu Yuan's mouth with her lily-white hand and said faintly, What are you doing, Dong'er? Lu Yuan looked at BB Don with a puzzled expression. This time, I'm taking the initiative. Little man, raise your head. BB Don was full of nobility, and her slender fingers lifted Lu Yuan's chin. Lu Yuan let BB Don do what she wanted with a faint smile on his face. BB Don sat condescendingly in Lu Yuan's arms, but pressed Lu Yuan against the pavilion pillar. Her pink eyes blinked gently as she looked at Lu Yuan and kissed him directly. Lu Yuan held Bibidon's delicate body, bringing with it a burst of fragrance. Lu Yuan, Bibidon's, and the two people passionately. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed, and the day of the god investiture ceremony had officially arrived. On the day before the god investiture ceremony, Lu Yuan also held his wedding with Gu Yuna, Pasizi, and the Snow Emperor. It was considered an explanation to them. Although it was a hurried wedding, there were still many people who came. Those who were present were all well-known figures on the continent, and it gave the three women enough extravagance. Compared to Lu Yuan's wedding, the god investiture ceremony was undoubtedly grander. Lu Yuan's wedding was held in front of the Holy Emperor's palace, but Lu Yuan directly built the Nine Heavens imperial court for the god investiture ceremony. This was a city in the sky that floated above the clouds. The Heavenly Emperor's god investiture naturally had to have a corresponding extravagance, and it had to be worthy of his status as the Heavenly Emperor. The Nine Heavens imperial court, which soared into the clouds, was destined not to be a place where everyone could stop. Apart from a few special people who were brought here by others, and soul masters who could fly, the rest were all titled Da. In the Douluo continent, apart from flying-type soul masters, only titled Da could fly as they wished. Therefore, it was destined that there wouldn't be many people who were qualified to participate in the god investiture ceremony. Nine Heavens Imperial Court, Heavenly Emperor's Palace. Lu Yuan sat high on the Heavenly Emperor's throne, while BB Don, as the Empress, sat beside Lu Yuan. Below the two of them, there were 7 huge thrones on the left and right. They were Gu Yuna, Chihiro Snow, Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, Ning Rongrong, Pasizi, and the Snow Emperor. Without exception, all 7 of them were god kings. Apart from Lu Yuan, they were the 7 strongest people. Lu Yuan didn't remove the Godly Realm Committee. The 7 of them were members of the committee and could assist Lu Yuan in managing the Godly Realm. Lu Yuan naturally made decisions, but when Lu Yuan didn't want to manage the Godly Realm, they would discuss and decide on the Godly Realm's matters. Below the many thrones, there were 3 rows of people who were participating in the god investiture ceremony. The row on the right was led by Sendoryu and belonged to the power of the old martial soul palace. It was also a power directly under the empire. The row in the middle was led by fellows Long Xiaoyao and belonged to the Dragon King Palace. There were also people from the 7 Treasures Glaze sect, the Heavenly Star Academy, Zhu Junlin, and the others. They represented the powers of the continent. The row on the left was led by Wang Qiu and included the Mountain Dragon King, the Titan Giant Ape, Ditian, and the others. They represented the powers of the soul beasts. These 3 powers basically represented all of the powers on the Douluo continent. Lu Yuan sat high on the throne, and his eyes scanned everyone below him. The Heavenly Emperor's supreme aura swept across the entire place. Since I've ascended to the throne, all of you who have followed me have worked hard and contributed greatly. Naturally, you will be rewarded. Lu Yuan spoke softly, and his dignified voice resonated throughout heaven and earth. It reverberated throughout the entire Douluo continent. My father, fellows, raised me. His kindness is greater than the heavens, and his love for me is deeper than the ocean. Every time I think about it, I'm filled with emotions. If it weren't for my father, I wouldn't be where I am today. Fellows shall be the father of the God realm, and he shall be the God King of hell. He shall be in charge of the countless abyssal plains of hell, and he shall command countless vengeful dead spirits. He shall also be bestowed with the demonic emperor's purgatory halberd. After Lu Yuan finished speaking, a purplish-black godly seed appeared out of thin air and fused with fellows. As boundless, immortal spiritual energy poured into the fellows' abilities were forcefully raised to the level of a god king. This was why Lu Yuan's words were so powerful. Compared to BB Don and the others who had to slowly refine godly seeds, it was much simpler. However, the drawback of doing this was that it required a long time to tap into the power of a god seed. It was very difficult to unleash the full strength of a god seed. At the same time, one's foundation would be unstable, and their fighting strength would be weaker than those of the same tier. However, Fellow's talent was already exceptionally poor. It was already unimaginable that he could reach the level of a god king, so a weak foundation was not a problem. No matter how strong or weak a god king's foundation was, he was still a god king, and he was still stronger than a first-tier god. For Fellows, this was already enough. After the fusion of the godly seed was completed, Fellow's body emitted an intense aura of a god king. The terrifying aura caused a storm in the Douluo continent. He held the demonic emperor's purgatory halberd in his hand, and his entire body was filled with awe-inspiring might. Lu Yuan nodded in satisfaction. Fellow's martial soul was the demonic hell flaming hound. This god king of hell position was a perfect match for him. As for how this god king of hell position came about, it was naturally created by Lu Yuan extracting boundless origin energy. Creating a god king's position was not difficult for Lu Yuan. After all, he was Lu Yuan's father. He still had to have some face. A first-tier divine plane was a little embarrassing. Only a god king was worthy of Fellow's identity as the father of the god realm. Chapter 1271. God King of Hell, take your seat. Lu Yuan pointed casually, and another huge throne appeared beside Ning Rongrong's seat. Philo's figure flashed and directly sat on the throne. Everyone below the stage looked at the spirited and imposing Fellows, and all of them couldn't help but reveal looks of envy. From a soul emperor to a soul king, Fellows could be said to have reached the heavens in a single step. And all of this was thanks to his good son. Lu Yuan smiled at the Fellows before he shifted his gaze and looked below. Ma Xiaotao, listen to me. As soon as Lu Yuan's voice fell, Ma Xiaotao's graceful figure suddenly appeared. Dressed in red, she looked exceptionally valiant and heroic. As he looked at Ma Xiaotao, Lu Yuan revealed a gentle look in his eyes. Ma Xiaotao had been following behind him ever since he summoned her, and he was very touched by her companionship over the past 10 years. Ma Xiaotao's position in his heart wasn't below Wang Qiuer's, and he had long acknowledged her as family. Ma Xiaotao is my sworn sister, and she has protected me along the way. She has also helped me get rid of evil and expand my territory. Ma Xiaotao will be conferred the title of God King of Destruction, and will be given the super godly weapon, Divine Destruction Halberd. As Lu Yuan finished speaking, the divine seed of destruction flew into the sky and fused with Ma Xiaotao. As immortal spiritual energy surged into her, Ma Xiaotao's soul power started to increase rapidly. She rose from an ultimate Douluo to a god king, and her frightening aura was revealed. The purple divine destruction halberd landed in her hands, and divine lightning rumbled as a frightening destructive power swept across the entire place. The God King of Destruction's position, which had always been empty, was something that Lu Yuan had specially prepared for Ma Xiaotao. Ma Xiaotao's martial soul was the fire phoenix of ultimate fire, and her flames also contained frightening destructive power. It was quite compatible with the God King of Destruction's position. God King of Destruction, take your seat. Lu Yuan waved his hand, and a throne appeared once again. Thank you, Heavenly Emperor. Ma Xiaotao bowed. Her red eyes were filled with gratitude and adoration. Her figure flashed, and she sat down on the throne. Wang Xiao'er, listen to me. You shall be the metal god, and you shall control the metal element of the 5 elements. You shall be the leader of the 9 elemental gods, and you shall be bestowed with the super divine weapon, the golden dragon divine spear. As Lu Yuan finished speaking, Wang Xiao'er fused with the golden god's divine seed. The golden god was the leader of the 9 elemental gods, and its cultivation level was also raised to the godly king level by Lu Yuan. The golden god was a god king, and with the power of the golden dragon king within her body, she was far more powerful than the average god king, and she was on the same level as Gu Yuna, Bibi Dan, and Chihiro Snow. This was also something that Lu Yuan had done in order to balance the powers of the God Kings. Thank you, Heavenly Emperor. Wang Xiao'er smiled and bowed to Lu Yuan. She held the golden dragon divine spear and wore golden armor. She looked like a valiant war goddess. God King, take your seat. Lu Yuan pointed, and another throne rose into the sky. Wang Xiao'er instantly took her seat. Little Lan, listen to me. You shall be the water god, and you shall be bestowed with the super godly item, the water god staff. Lu Yuan also raised the position of the water god to the godly king level. The water god staff, which was originally a chief god's weapon, was also forcefully raised to the level of a super godly item by Lu Yuan. As little Lan returned to her seat, Lu Yuan's family members were all conferred titles. Every one of them was at the godly king level. As the saying went, when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs will ascend to the heavens. Lu Yuan naturally conferred titles to those who were close to him first. This was understandable. Even emperors would confer titles to their relatives when they ascended to the throne, let alone him. As Lu Yuan conferred titles, the number of godly kings also increased by a few. Among the current godly kings, the human godly kings were Bibi Dan, Chihiro Snow, Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, Pasizi, Ning Rongrong, Fellows, and Ma Xiaotao. The soul beast godly kings were Gu Yuna, Wang Xiao'er, the Snow Emperor, and Little Lan. There seemed to be very few soul beast godly kings, but there were still the 5 elements Dragon King, the Mountain Dragon King, and the other spirits. The former had the fighting strength of a true godly king, while the latter was comparable to a half-step godly king. In addition, after their conferment today, they might be able to resist a godly king for a short period of time. Therefore, soul beasts weren't inferior to humans in terms of strength. In fact, they were slightly superior. Therefore, Lu Yuan was going to make up for this gap. Sendoryu, listen to my conferment. You shall be the sun god, and you shall wield the power of the sun. You shall be bestowed with the super godly item, the sun holy sword. Long Xiaoyao, listen to my conferment. You shall be the god of darkness, and you shall wield the power of the element of darkness. You shall be bestowed with the super godly item, the darkness holy sword. Yi Shishui, listen to my conferment. You shall be the god of death, and you shall wield the power of death. You shall be bestowed with the super godly item, the holy death scythe. Yin Xiaozhe, listen to my conferment. You shall be the god of light, and you shall wield the power of the element of light. You shall be bestowed with the super godly item, the scepter of light. Dugabo, listen to my conferment. You shall be the god of poison, and you shall wield all poisons in the world. You shall be bestowed with the super godly item, the 10,000 poison portrait. Golden crocodile, listen to my conferment. You shall be the god of destruction, and you shall be bestowed with the super godly item, the divine hammer of destruction. Lu Yuan directly conferred the titles of 6 gods. These 6 gods had all reached the level of a half-step godly king after fusing with their god thrones. In addition, they all possessed super godly items. Each of them could resist a godly king for a short period of time. The top powers of the soul beast gods and the human gods were barely balanced at this moment. After conferring the titles of those who were close to Lu Yuan and had contributed greatly to Lu Yuan, it was time for the rest of the gods to be conferred titles. The Titan giant ape shall be the god of earth, and he shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. The god of earth was conferred to the Titan giant ape, and Lu Yuan's initial promise was fulfilled. The sword Douluo shall be the sword god, and he shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. Feng Ningfeng shall be the support god, and he shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. Dugu Yin shall be the sky poison goddess, and she shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. The authority that was split from the poison god also reached the rank of a god under Lu Yuan's promotion. Yi Lingling shall be the wood god, and she shall wield the wood element. She shall be one of the 9 elemental gods, and she shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. Ma Hong Jun shall be the fire god, and he shall be one of the 9 elemental gods, and he shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. Zhu Zhuyun shall be the wind god, and she shall be one of the 9 elemental gods, and she shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. Xue shall be the knife god, and he shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. Oscar shall be the culinary god, and he shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. The culinary god's position was also promoted to the rank 1 god thrones. Ling Wei shall be the wrath god, and he shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. Qin Sheng shall be the music god, and she shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. Xiao Wu shall be the forest god, and she shall wield the rank 1 god thrones. Lu Yuan didn't stop speaking. When it was Xiao Wu's turn, he finally conferred titles to everyone present, and all the gods returned to their positions. It could be said that at this point, the great god investiture ceremony had reached its end. Lu Yuan sat on the throne high above and looked around. The great god investiture ceremony ends here. From now on, I'll have to trouble everyone with the affairs of the god realm. We accept the celestial emperor's decree. The gods bowed in unison, and their voices shook the heavens and swept across the entire Douluo continent. Chapter 1272. Time flew by like an arrow, and in the blink of an eye, several thousand years had passed in the human world. Lu Yuan and the others had ascended to the god realm a long time ago, and the name of the heavenly emperor was widely spread throughout the Douluo continent, and he was revered by everyone. God realm, in the garden behind the heavenly emperor palace. There was a pavilion here, and Lu Yuan and his 8 wives were leisurely admiring the scenery in the garden. The flowers and plants in the god realm naturally couldn't be compared to the flowers and plants in the lower realm. In particular, the flowers and plants in Lu Yuan's garden were extraordinary. Every single one of the flowers and plants here was an immortal herb that was absolutely difficult to find in the lower realm, and countless people would fight over it until their heads bled. However, in Lu Yuan's garden, they were merely there for viewing. It seems like Senior Yuan has taken good care of these flowers and plants. I've entrusted this garden to the right person. Lu Yuan picked up his teacup, took a sip of tea, and said with a light smile. Chrysanthemum Douluo was conferred the title of flower god by Lu Yuan, and he was in charge of all the flowers and plants in the god realm and the world. This task just happened to be to the liking of a person who loved flowers as much as his own life. When he did this work, it could be said that he was rather hard-working. Yu Guan loves flowers and plants the most in his life, and every single one of the flowers and plants in your garden are precious, immortal herbs. He naturally loves them and takes good care of them. Bibi Don smiled, and a beautiful smile blossomed on her face. Her bright and beautiful smile actually suppressed all the colorful flowers and plants in the garden. Lu Yuan was stunned, and there was a faint infatuation in his double pupils. He sighed and said, "No matter how beautiful the flowers and plants are, they can't even compare to Dong Air. You only know how to say nice things to make me happy." Bibi Don rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan, but she couldn't help but reveal a good-looking smile on her face. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and didn't say anything. His Dong Air always said one thing and meant another. He was already used to this. Bibi Don smiled as a look of longing appeared in her eyes. She looked at Lu Yuan and said, unknowingly, Yunxi and the others have already been in the lower realm for 8 days. I really do miss her. 1 day in the divine realm was equivalent to 1 year in the lower realm. In other words, they had already spent 8 years in the lower realm. Hearing this, Guyuna and Chihiro Snow couldn't help but sigh and say, "We haven't seen Yunji Yunfan in 8 days." After Guyuna and Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan finally had a child with Bibi Don, and his wish was fulfilled. It was a girl. Now, Lu Yuan had a total of 3 children. The eldest was his and Guyuna's child. His name was Lu Yunza, and he inherited his and Guyuna's bloodline. His martial soul was a variant 9-color divine dragon. The strength of his bloodline was not as strong as Lu Yuan's, but it was a bit stronger than the second-generation 5-clawed golden dragon king. The second son, Lu Yunfan, was his and Chihiro Snow's child. He inherited his and Chihiro Snow's excellent talent and had twin martial souls. His first martial soul was the 5-clawed golden dragon king, and his second martial soul was the 18-winged chaos angel. He completed the fusion of light and darkness that Chihiro Snow couldn't complete. At the same time, he also had the self-martial soul fusion skill, the Heavenly Emperor change. It could be said that he had almost perfectly inherited everything from Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow. He was also in the Xiantian titled realm, and his talent was the highest among Lu Yuan's 3 children. The youngest daughter, Lu Yunxi, was Lu Yuan and Bibidon's child. She also had twin martial souls. Her first martial soul was the 5-clawed golden dragon king, and her second martial soul was the god's eye of the soul. Perhaps because Lu Yuan had Polychoria and Bibi Don had the martial soul of the soul-devouring spider emperor, Lu Yunxi had the god's eye of the soul. Naturally, this martial soul was not as strong as the Polychoria, but it was a twin martial soul with the 5-clawed golden dragon king. This meant that it was not much weaker than the 5-clawed golden dragon king. Lu Yunxi was also in the Xiantian titled realm. It could be said that Lu Yuan's 3 children all had full rank 90 soul power ever since their martial souls awakened at the age of 6. On one hand, this was definitely related to Lu Yuan's bloodline. On the other hand, they had been nourished by Lu Yuan's origin energy before they were born. It was reasonable for them to have such talent. They came to the lower realm at the age of 10 and were already ultimate Douluo. To them, training on the continent was not much different from playing. Speaking of which, don't you see them every day? Why haven't you seen them in a long time? Lu Yuan asked as he tapped his finger on the table. How could it be the same? Seeing them from the god realm and seeing them in front of us are 2 different things. Who's like you? You don't care about your children at all. You don't even see them once in 2 days. Aren't you afraid that they'll be in danger? Bibi Don retorted. Danger? Lu Yuan pursed his lips. These 3 little ancestors each have a God Emperor weapon and super divine equipment. They also have the 5 elemental dragon clan to take care of them. What danger could they possibly be in? So this is the reason you pulled the abyss over? Chihiro Snow asked coldly. This is a test for them to become gods. With so many helpers, if they can't even deal with the abyss, what right do they have to inherit the godhood? Do they really think I'm sending them to the lower realm to play? I chose the god realm as their father. I don't expect them to be like me, but they should at least be able to deal with the abyss. Otherwise, wouldn't they be too useless? Lu Yuan spread out his hands and said in a flat tone, "Humph, you always have a fallacious argument." Chihiro Snow snorted and turned away. Sigh, You guys are really spoiled children. Fortunately, I forcefully sent them away. If they had stayed in the God Realm, I don't know how much they would be spoiled by you guys. Lu Yuan shook his head and sighed. Gu Yuna, Chihiro Snow, and Bibi Don were all heavenly prodigies with extraordinary means. However, when it came to spoiling children, no one was better. If he didn't let these three children experience the outside world, he was really afraid that they would be spoiled rotten. Fortunately, his three children were all sensible, and their performance was passable. He occasionally paid attention to them, and he was quite satisfied with their progress. Oomph. Chihiro Snow snorted and didn't reply. She often watched Lu Yun fan from the God Realm, and he had indeed improved a lot. After experiencing the outside world, he had grown a lot. However, her temper was just that proud. Although she knew that Lu Yuan's words made sense, it was difficult for her to lower her head. Obuchi, the Holy Lord of the Abyss, is a first-tier god. After all, can these three children deal with him? Bibi Don asked in a concerned manner. So you want to help? Lu Yuan asked with a hint of a smile. Bibi Don nodded lightly upon hearing this. No. Divine monarchs are not allowed to descend to the lower realm for no reason. The laws of the God realm are set by me, and you guys have to abide by them. Don't take the lead in violating them, understand? Furthermore, a mere first-tier god is a test for them, but it's not an insurmountable difficulty. Trust them, they are my children. Lu Yuan smiled and spoke in a relaxed manner. Chapter 1273. I naturally trust them, but I'm still a little worried. After all, there are flesh and blood. You're not a mother, so you don't understand how we feel. Bibi Don shook her head as she spoke softly. Lu Yuan pursed his lips and said, but I'm still their father. Without me, they won't be here. You're worrying too much. Our children aren't ordinary people. They're smart, intelligent, and talented in cultivation. They're much more powerful than you think. Furthermore, I've taught them all of my secret techniques and self-created soul skills. Our children have to grow up eventually. We can't take care of them for their entire lives. Let's just let them do whatever they want. As parents, we have to have confidence in them. Furthermore, I've already said that the 5-elemental dragon clan is in the lower realm. If they can't defeat them, won't they call for help? The 5-elemental dragon clan won't help them against the Holy Lord, but they can't just stand by and watch as they're in danger. Don't worry. Lu Yuan patted Bibidon's shoulder as he spoke in a gentle voice. So let's hope so. Bibi Don sighed as she leaned gently against Lu Yuan. Lu Yunxi and the others had gone to the lower realm. Bibi Don, Chihiro Snow, and Guyuna hadn't been able to relax for even a single moment. Perhaps this was the difference between a father's love and a mother's love. Lu Yuan wanted them to grow up and be independent. However, Bibi Don and the others didn't have such extravagant demands. All he wanted was for them to be safe and sound. However, no matter what, his love for them was the same. On the Douluo continent, an earth-shattering battle was taking place here. 2 men and 1 woman were attacking a middle-aged man with a halberd with all their might. This middle-aged man's aura was extremely vast. As he swung his halberd through the air, a burst of powerful destructive fluctuations emanated from it. Clang! A golden and jade spear clashed with the halberd, causing a series of sparks to erupt. The spear was extremely sharp, and it left a deep gash on the halberd. The middle-aged man frowned. Energy burst out from his hand and shook the spear away. He looked pitifully at the large halberd in his hand, which had several hideous scratches, and a trace of fear was hidden in his eyes. Where did these 3 guys come from? The weapons in their hands are actually so sharp. The middle-aged man was a little surprised. His heavenly sacred splitting abyss halberd was also a genuine supra-divine artifact. In the end, it was completely defeated by the weapons in the hands of the 3 fellows. He could even feel the wailing of the super-divine weapon in his hand. That was the suppression between divine weapons. The weapons of the 3 opponents were definitely far beyond the level of super-divine weapons. Shua! A white-robed youth slowly stood upright with a golden jade spear in his hand. His body exuded dazzling nine-colored light, and a nine-colored divine dragon with a pair of wings roared into the sky behind him. Nine-colored soul rings shone brightly beneath his feet, and there was a huge golden halo behind him. Level 100 Divine Official. That was the young man's current cultivation. He was Lu Yunzi, the son of Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna. The golden jade spear in his hand was naturally Lu Yuan's Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear. "Big brother, are you all right?" A youth in green robes came to Lu Yunzi's side. He held a simple black and white sword in his hand. The sword exuded dense energy waves, and it wasn't inferior to the Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear at all. This sword was called the Primal Chaos Holy Sword, and it was a genuine God Emperor weapon. Behind him, the five-clawed Golden Dragon King and the 18-winged Angel flew at the same time. 9 dazzling golden soul rings and 9 black and white soul rings rippled beneath him. He also had a huge golden soul ring behind him. He was also a divine official, and his force was much stronger than Lu Yunzi's. This green-robed man was the son of Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow, Lu Yunfan. "I'm fine." Lu Yunzi shook his head and said, "Second brother, this abyssal holy lord isn't weak. We don't need to test him anymore. Let's use our full power. We should have done this a long time ago. Let's get rid of him and return to the divine realm as soon as possible. I'm starting to miss father and mother." A young girl in a silver dress came next to him. Her voice was filled with eagerness. "You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right." She also had 18 dazzling soul rings beneath her, and a golden divine ring behind her shone. She was also a divine official. Aside from her dense blood essence power, there was also a dense and obscure spiritual wave emanating from her body. Her name was Lu Yunxi, and she was the daughter of Lu Yuan and Bibi Dan. Although she was the youngest, she was also very powerful. Her force wasn't inferior to Lu Yunzi's at all. She had a silver-white spear in her hand that flashed with cold light. This was the god-killing spear. Lu Yuan had refined countless star origins into it. Not only did it have terrifying physical offensive power, but it could also directly injure one's soul. It was a bona fide God Emperor weapon. "Then let's use our full power." Lu Yunfan nodded. His body flashed with light as he put on his divine armor. Lu Yunzi and Lu Yunxi also put on their divine armor, and their force began to soar. "Lin!" The three of them shouted at the same time and used the secret word Lin. Their force, which was already rising, soared again. The three of them turned into 3 streaks of light and surrounded the abyssal Holy Lord. "Damn it!" The abyssal Holy Lord frowned, and energy surged all over his body. He kept striking out with his heavenly sacred splitting abyss halberd. However, Lu Yunzi and the other 2 weren't afraid at all. They used the secret word Lin while using the secret word swordsman to protect themselves. Their supra-divine artifact armor was impenetrable, and their God Emperor weapons were indestructible. The 3 of them used their full power, and the abyssal Holy Lord immediately felt unprecedented pressure. He was a level 1 god, but he was actually a little flustered under the attacks of 3 god officials, especially the heavenly sacred splitting abyss halberd in his hand. It was almost on the verge of collapse. "Piss off!" The abyssal Holy Lord roared, and terrifying energy burst out of his body, forcefully pushing Lu Yunzi and the other 2 away. Pointless struggle. True Dragon Claw. Lu Yunzi stood in the air and reached out with his right claw. A 1,000-meter-long claw with unstoppable sharpness clawed at the abyssal Holy Lord. True Dragon Claw of the True Dragon Treasured Art. As a pure dragon, Lu Yunzi had mastered this move to perfection. Heavenly Emperor Fist. Lu Yunfan clenched his right fist, and a supreme figure appeared behind him. The terrifying chi seemed to be above all living beings. He punched out, and the space exploded. Beams of golden light burst out with unparalleled Emperor's might as they flew toward the abyssal Holy Lord. Chapter 1274. The Celestial Emperor Fist was a peerless monarch art created by Celestial Emperor Lu Yuan by combining everything he had learned. The fist technique was extremely ferocious and powerful. Once the Celestial Emperor Fist was unleashed, all living beings would submit to it. This was a peerless fist technique exclusive to the human race. Among Lu Yuan's 3 children, Lu Yunzi was a pure dragon, which was incompatible with the fist technique. Lu Yunxi was a girl, so only Lu Yunfan had received this inheritance. God's slaying eye light. At the same time that Lu Yunfan and Lu Yunzi unleashed their ultimate techniques, Lu Yunxi also unleashed her own earth-shattering attack. The God-slaying eye light was a brand new eye technique that Lu Yuan had created by combining the dual pupil infernal prison light and dual pupil annihilation light. Its power was comparable to almost any other ultimate technique in the world, and it was undoubtedly the most powerful spiritual type attack. It could be said that Lu Yunzi and the other 2 had all received different types of Lu Yuan's inheritances, so their powers were definitely extraordinary. As soon as Lu Yunxi's voice fell, 2 beams of purple light shot forth from her eyes toward the abyss Holy Lord with devastating destructive power. True Dragon Claw, Celestial Emperor Fist, and God Slaying Eye Light. These 3 peerless ultimate techniques were all unleashed to annihilate the abyss Holy Lord. In the face of these 3 terrifying attacks, the abyss Holy Lord's heart trembled, and a strong sense of impending doom welled up in his heart. If he couldn't survive these attacks, then he would definitely die. With a thought, boundless black mist erupted around the abyss Holy Lord as boundless abyssal power was injected into his body. He waved his heavenly sacred splitting abyss halberd and unleashed all of his power. Boom! The 3 terrifying attacks clashed with the heavenly sacred splitting abyss halberd in the abyss Holy Lord's hand, and a terrifying explosion instantly erupted. The surrounding space, which had been stabilized by Lu Yuan's words several thousand years ago, began to crumble again in the face of this terrifying explosion. Boundless energy tornadoes erupted from the point of collision, and Lu Yunfan and the others were also forced back over a kilometer. The area where the abyssal Holy Lord was situated had been completely inundated by an energy storm, and everything in the surrounding area had been completely destroyed. Lu Yunzi calmed his chi and murmured, "I wonder if the Abyss Saint is still alive. It should be very difficult for him to withstand such a terrifying hurricane." Lu Yunxi replied with a hint of relief in her voice. After killing the abyssal Holy Lord, the mission that Lu Yuan had given them would be complete. He's a first-tier god after all. I don't think he's that weak. He might have been seriously injured, but he definitely won't die. Lu Yunfan shook his head. His golden eyes flickered as he spoke. "Oh." Lu Yunzi and Lu Yunxi raised their brows as they stared at the raging energy hurricane without blinking. A quarter of an hour later, the crazy energy gradually dissipated, revealing a figure. His body was covered in blood. His left arm was gone. His divine armor was in tatters. The halberd in his hand was broken, and his aura was extremely weak. "Looks like you guessed right. You're not dead yet." Lu Yunxi's lips curled into a smile when she saw the figure. "Then let me send him on his final journey." Lu Yunfan chuckled as golden light erupted from his body, and the 5-clawed golden dragon king behind him fused with the 18-winged chaos angel. In an instant, an incomparably ancient and powerful aura gushed out. Lu Yunfan's figure disappeared, and a figure clad in golden 9-dragon armor with 18 black and white wings appeared. He held a huge sword that was black, white, and gold in his hand. His aura was extremely vast. His martial soul fusion skill, Heavenly Emperor transformation, was also Lu Yunfan's most powerful trump card. Heavenly Emperor intent, demon slaying. An authoritative voice sounded as the humanoid figure wielded a massive tricolored sword, unleashing a sword projection over 10,000 feet in length as it hurtled directly toward the Holy Lord. "Block it!" The abyssal Holy Lord wielded his heavenly sacred splitting abyss halberd and unleashed all of his remaining energy to resist this attack. Crack! The sword and halberd clashed, and the huge sword projection directly severed the heavenly sacred splitting abyss halberd and surged toward the abyssal holy lord. No! The abyssal holy lord let out a mournful wail as his body was instantly engulfed by the monstrous sword projection and completely dissipated into nothingness. In the instant that the abyssal holy lord was completely dead, a nine-colored light suddenly appeared in the sky and enveloped Lu Yunzi and the others. 3 resplendent god seeds descended from the sky and directly entered their minds. Dragon God position. Lu Yunzi sensed his rapidly increasing energy, and a look of joy appeared on his face. Time God Seed, Lu Yunzi murmured with a smile. The power of time was definitely a high-level power. Fate governs everything, and fate controls everything. Lu Yunfan's eyes flashed. In a sense, the power of fate and the paramount power of law were a little similar. Father, Lu Yunfan murmured, and he seemed to have understood Lu Yuan's intentions. In the God realm, Lu Yuan sat in a pavilion with Bibi Dan and the other 8 women on his left and right. In front of them were Lu Yunfan and the other 2 who had already gone through trials and become gods, as well as their close female friends. Greetings, Father. Greetings, Heavenly Emperor. Lu Yunfan and the others all bowed. Not bad. You guys were able to annihilate the abyssal Holy Lord. You guys have completed the mission I gave you. You didn't embarrass me. Lu Yuan nodded and smiled. Hee hee, Father, we did very well, right? Lu Yunshi giggled and said, It's SOSO. It barely met my requirements. Lu Yuan said plainly. What? Can't you praise us? Lu Yunshi pouted and said coquettishly after hearing Lu Yuan's words. It's your fault for not being able to tolerate praises. Look at you. If I praise you again, your tail will go up to the sky. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes at Lu Yunshi and looked to the side. Xiao, we meet again. How is it? Yunzi didn't bully you, right? Father, I wouldn't dare. Lu Yunzi smiled bitterly. His eyes were filled with respect. Ever since he was young, Lu Yuan was the person he admired the most. Heavenly Emperor, Yunzi treats me very well, Bai Xiao said respectfully. That's good. Since you're Yunzi's wife now, just call me father like Yunzi. The Heavenly Emperor is too distant. Lu Yuan smiled and said, Yes, father. Bai Xiao hesitated and called out embarrassedly. Huh. Seeing this, Lu Yuan laughed and looked at Lu Yunfan. Lu Yunfan was different from Lu Yuan's personality. Lu Yunfan was very similar to Lu Yuan. Brat, aren't you going to introduce my daughters-in-law? Lu Yuan picked up the teacup and asked with a smile. Lu Yunfan chuckled and said, Father, this is your eldest daughter-in-law, Su Exen. Lu Yuan glanced and nodded. His eldest daughter-in-law was a typical dignified and generous woman. Greetings, Father. Su Exen bowed and said, MHM. Lu Yuan smiled and nodded. This is your second daughter-in-law, Luo Yunming. This is your third daughter-in-law, Yi Qianru. The 2 women also bowed to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled with satisfaction and sipped his tea. He looked at the last person. That should be his 4th daughter-in-law. However, it was fine if he didn't look. After taking a closer look, Lu Yuan's expression became strange. This 4th daughter-in-law was quite beautiful and had a very gentle and intellectual temperament. She was as soft as water and had a determination that ordinary women didn't have. However, her identity, Lu Yuan had a bad feeling. It couldn't be so coincidental, right? This should be another similar existence that took human form. What's the name of my 4th daughter-in-law? Lu Yuan didn't give up and asked as if he was making a final struggle. Oh, her? She's called Ian. She's called Ian. A faint voice echoed. Lu Yuan felt his mind suddenly explode. His hand loosened, and the teacup fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. And that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.